Chapter 21:10. Walking to the window of the bedroom, the village chief looked at the closed window and hesitated for a moment. In the end, he raised his hand and gently pushed it open. There was an oil lamp inside. The candlelight flickered, making the bedroom seem a little dark. The bedroom was also very simple. Apart from a shabby desk, there was only a wooden bed. However, it was very neat and clean. On the wooden bed, a 13-year-old boy was lying on his side, covered with a blanket and sleeping soundly. He didn't cultivate? The gray castle spirit was a little surprised. After all, he is still young. If we let him cultivate every night, how can his body bear it? Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. That makes sense. The spirit muttered. He is actually sleeping today? The village chief looked at the boy on the wooden bed with a stunned expression. Obviously, this wasn't the first time he came to monitor Long Tianyu. Madman secretly said, "This person has long been suspicious of Long Tianyu. If he continues to stay in the village, I am afraid he will be in danger sooner or later." This lord thinks so too. This bastard is worse than a pig or a dog. If not for wanting to let Tianyu deal with him himself, I really want to kill him now. The spirit transmitted his voice, his tone carrying a dense killing intent. Time passed bit by bit. After waiting for about half an hour, the village chief still didn't see Long Tianyu wake up. Seems like there won't be any harvest tonight. What a waste of time. I might as well have a good time with Long Dayu's wife. Speaking of that woman, my heart itches. She is even more interesting than this little bastard's mother. Wait, it seems that Long Dayu went to the town yesterday and will only be back after a few days? This is a good opportunity. Let's go find that slut now. With that, the village chief had a lewd smile on his face as he turned around and left quickly. Indeed a bastard. Madman's face was filled with disgust. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed as he turned to look at the gray castle and transmitted his voice. You chat with Long Tianyu. I will follow the village chief to take a look. Others are going to have fun. What are you going to look for? Peeping? I really didn't expect you to be so wretched at such a young age. The artifact spirit said disdainfully. Qin Feiyong's face twitched as he said in annoyance, I'm just going to see if that big fish Long's wife was also forced. What are you thinking about? I see. The artifact spirit smiled awkwardly and said, Then you go. We'll meet at the village entrance. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at the gray castle and turned around to chase after the village chief. I'm going to join in the fun too. Madman chuckled and quickly chased after him. Human men are indeed beasts. The gray castle said disdainfully, then turned into a stream of light and flew into the bedroom. Following closely, a gray figure flew out from the gray castle. It was the artifact spirit, Tianyu. Unable to see his true appearance, the artifact spirit walked to the bedside and pushed Long Tianyu. Long Tianyu immediately got up with a start, his little face full of vigilance. But when she saw the artifact spirit, her little face immediately lit up with joy as she called out, Grandpa Hui, brat, you slept quite soundly. The artifact spirit laughed hoarsely, full of doting. Isn't this too tiring? That's why I want to rest. Grandpa Hui, I'm not slacking off. I usually work very hard. Look at me now. I've already broken through to the 3-star War Emperor. I've also completely grasped the perfect battle art that you gave me. If you don't believe me, I'll show you a few moves. Long Tianyu raised his head and said in a fluster, all right. What's there to show? Grandpa didn't blame you. This time, Grandpa came over to tell you something. Grandpa will be going to the 9-Heaven Palace later. I'm afraid I won't be able to see you in the future. Grandpa wants to ask you, do you want to go with Grandpa? The artifact spirit asked with a smile. 9-Heaven Palace? Long Tianyu was slightly startled, and his little face was immediately filled with excitement and yearning. Obviously, he had long heard of the existence of the 9-Heaven Palace from the artifact spirit. However, after the excitement, he was somewhat hesitant. Don't worry, take your time to think about it. Grandpa won't force you. The artifact spirit laughed. When interacting with Long Tianyu, there wasn't the slightest bit of hostility. A dignified heaven-defying artifact. No. To be exact, it should be considered a heaven-defying demon. A demon actually had such a gentle side. It was truly hard to imagine. On the other side, Qin Feiyong and Madman were like two ghosts, following not far behind the village chief. Why are you following us? Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice.
Fuck.
Wherever I go is my freedom. Why do you care? Madman raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyong looked at him helplessly, turned his head to look at the village chief's back, and secretly said, Tell me, if that Long-to-You's wife was also forced, what should we do? Nonsense. Of course we should castrate him. Chop him into 8 pieces and feed him to the dogs. Madman sneered. Qin Feiyong was stunned and said in surprise, I didn't expect you to hate evil so much. What do you mean? Madman was slightly startled and frowned. Am I usually very hateful? No, no, no. Very domineering, very invincible. Qin Feiyong hurriedly smiled. Madman smiled proudly and said proudly, As a person, you have to be domineering, otherwise you will only be bullied. That's true. Qin Feiyong nodded. Speaking of which, what was the domain you opened in the far west this morning? Madman looked curiously at Qin Feiyong. Slaughter domain. Qin Feiyong didn't hide it. Slaughter domain? Madman was startled and frowned. I seem to have heard that during the test, you were at the bottom of the sky stairway and were troubled by Feng One High, so you also opened this slaughter domain? And Qin Feiyong nodded and said contemptuously, If it wasn't for Shangguan Fenglan's appearance, Feng One High would have already become a ghost under my sword. Madman was stunned and said with a playful smile, This Feng One High probably still doesn't know that Shangguan Fenglan indirectly saved his life. Don't just talk about me. When are you going to show me your true trump card? Qin Feiyong secretly said. Me? The methods I showed in the morning are all of my strength. Madman chuckled. Do you think I will believe you? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. Madman pouted and said lightly, Forget it if you don't believe me. About 10 breaths later, the village chief looked around and turned into an alley. Qin Feiyong and Madman also followed in. Not long after, the village chief stopped in front of a house and looked around sneakily. Seeing that there was no one around, he gently knocked on the door. Not long after, the door opened. A woman appeared in his line of sight. The woman was about 30 years old, and although she was dressed very plainly, her figure was quite good, and she was still charming. It's you. When the woman saw the village chief, her face turned pale, and she quickly closed the door. However, the village chief quickly raised his hand and pushed the door open, and even the woman was forced back a few steps. Then the village chief walked in and closed the door behind him. What are you doing? The woman was terrified. Long-to-You is not here. What are you doing? Also, keep your voice down. Don't let the neighbors hear you. The village chief leaned against the door, holding his chin, and his eyes unscrupulously scanned the woman's body. The woman's face was pale, and she suddenly knelt on the ground and begged, Please let me go, okay? I don't want to let you down. Hearing this, the village chief rushed over angrily and slapped the woman's face. It's your fortune that I like you. Don't be so shameless. Besides, it's not our first time. If you want to say that you've let down Long-to-You, you've already let him down. After the village chief finished speaking, he sat on a chair in the hall and said with a smile, Crawl over here. The woman didn't seem to hear it, and she was paralyzed there in despair. Didn't you hear me? Do you want me to kill Long-to-You? Okay. Once Long-to-You is dead, I can come to find you even more unscrupulously. You know that I have the ability. After all, my son is now a disciple of 9 Heaven Palace. The village chief laughed. What? His son is also a disciple of 9 Heaven Palace? Inside the Black Tortoise world, Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. After the village chief closed the door, they naturally couldn't directly barge in. Therefore, Qin Feiyong brought Madman into the Black Tortoise world, and then sneaked into the hall without anyone noticing. Because of this, they heard every word of the village chief. Don't kill you. At the same time, the woman's body stiffened, and she hurriedly looked at the village chief and shouted, Then crawl over here. As long as you serve me well, I guarantee that Long-to-You will be safe. The village chief said. The woman crawled toward the village chief in despair. her eyes filled with tears. The village chief looked at the woman with a face of satisfaction. Preposterous, preposterous. This beast is simply the shame of my northern region. Madman was furious. Not only did he take someone else's wife, he even threatened him so blatantly. This was intolerable. Qin Feiyang's heart was also burning with anger. The village chief didn't realize that danger was coming. He lay on the chair and said, "Take off your clothes and crawl onto me." The woman sobbed and could only begin to undress. How impressive! But at this moment, a cold and bone-chilling voice sounded. Following closely, two figures appeared out of thin air in the hall. It was Qin Feiyang and Madman. "Who is it?" The village chief suddenly stood up. The woman also retreated to the side in panic. "The person who wants your life." Madman laughed sinisterly. "It's you guys." The village chief looked at the two and said in shock and anger, "Yesterday, when Qin Feiyang and Madman broke into the village and read Long Tianyu's memories, the village chief was actually present. But at that time, he didn't say anything. He even hoped that Qin Feiyang could kill Long Tianyu. So, when he saw Qin Feiyang and Madman's faces, he immediately recognized them. Yes, it's us." Madman took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the village chief. Then, he stretched out his arm like lightning and grabbed the village chief's neck. The village chief wanted to resist, but he was shocked to find that the young man's strength was too great. He couldn't move at all. At the same time, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and condensed a barrier that covered the entire hall. The next movement would definitely be a bit big, so it was better to soundproof it so as not to alarm the other people in the village. After all, this wasn't something to be proud of. "You dare to touch me? Do you know who my son is?" The village chief roared in horror. The madman shouted, "Then do you know who I am?" The village chief looked at Madman and sneered, "Looking at you, I know that you must be a little boy, and my son is a disciple of Nine Heaven Palace. You can never afford to offend him." Chapter 21:11. Disciple of Nine Heaven Palace? I can't afford to offend them? Madman was stunned. He even said that he was just a small fry? What? Are you afraid? No matter how strong you are, can you be compared to the disciples of Nine Heaven Palace? Let me go right now. Kneel on the ground and apologize to me. Otherwise, when I tell my son, you will all die. The village chief looked at Madman and Qin Feiyang with disdain. Madman was stunned. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything, so he thought that the two were afraid. All of a sudden, he became arrogant and inflated. Haha, Madman laughed. Was there anyone in Nine Heaven Palace that he couldn't afford to offend? He probably wasn't even born yet. Qin Feiyang also laughed. Ignorance was really scary. Madman was someone who dared to kill in front of everyone in Nine Heaven Palace. Why would he care about a mere disciple? Even if it was an earth and heaven ranking disciple, he would kill them without hesitation. Why aren't you letting me go? Do you believe that I won't tell my son to wipe out your entire family? The village chief roared. Interesting, interesting. I really want to see what kind of person your son really is. What gave you the courage to say that you will wipe out my entire family? Madman laughed and punched the village chief in the stomach. He then let go and the village chief fell to the ground, holding his stomach as he cried out in pain. You are dead. I will immediately send a message to my son. Just you wait. The village chief roared with hatred. No need to be so troublesome. I will directly bring you to Nine Heaven Palace. Madman grinned. The village chief was stunned. Directly to Nine Heaven Palace? Were these two also disciples of Nine Heaven Palace? Madman grabbed the village chief and looked at Qin Feiyang. Let's go. Qin Feiyang glanced at the woman and said, You go first. I will find you at the entrance of the village later. Madman was startled and asked suspiciously, Why are you staying? Don't tell me you've also taken a fancy to her? He quickly moved to Qin Feiyang's side and said in a low voice, Brother, your appetite is a bit too heavy. Although this woman is indeed somewhat beautiful, she's already quite old and she's someone else's wife. This. The more Qin Feiyang listened, the more he felt that something was amiss. Did she think that he stayed because of this woman's beauty? His face instantly darkened, and he said angrily, Scram! What was he thinking about all day long? All right, all right, all right. As long as you're happy. The madman waved his hand, grabbed the village chief, and left. Before leaving, he didn't forget to look at Qin Feiyong with disdain. Your thoughts are not pure. Qin Feiyong was helpless. He walked to the woman and said with a smile, "Get up." The woman also retreated in a fluster, because she had also heard what the madman had said before. Don't worry, I don't have any thoughts about you. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. Did he lack beauties? He never lacked beauties. How could he do such a thing? She underestimated Qin Feiyong too much. Hearing this, the woman didn't relax. Her face was still full of panic. Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly and said, I believe you also know that this matter is not glorious, so it's best to hide it from your husband. But the village chief, the woman said, don't worry, from now on, he will disappear without a trace. But you have to keep your mouth shut about what happened tonight. In other words, even if someone asks you about the village chief's whereabouts in the future, you have to pretend that you don't know anything, understand? Qin Feiyong said. Yes, yes. The woman nodded repeatedly. All right then, live well. Don't feel sorry for your husband. After all, you were forced to do this. Qin Feiyong smiled. Thank you, the woman said gratefully. She slowly realized that the young man in front of her did not have any malicious intentions. Instead, he was enlightening her and teaching her how to deal with the aftermath. Qin Feiyong smiled and turned to leave. Outside the village, beside the stream, when Qin Feiyong arrived, he only saw Madman and the village chief. Madman had an angry smile on his face. The village chief's attitude was also very arrogant. Qin Feiyong glanced at the village chief, then looked at Madman and said, He's still arrogant? How can you use the word arrogant to describe him? He doesn't put Madman in his eyes at all. Madman said angrily. Qin Feiyong glanced at the village chief and smiled. I have to admit, your guts are really big. Is it very funny? You just wait and see. When we reach Nine Heavens Palace, you will be like him, kneeling in front of my son and begging for mercy. The village chief looked at Qin Feiyong and sneered. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Can't you see that we are also disciples of Nine Heavens Palace? So what? Can you compare to my son? The village chief said proudly. This. Qin Feiyong's expression froze and asked curiously, then dare I ask, what rank is your son in Nine Heavens Palace? If I tell you, you will be scared to death. The village chief said. Qin Feiyong smiled. Then tell us. Let's see if you can scare us to death. Listen well, my son is now an Earth-ranking disciple of Nine Heavens Palace. Ranked 10th. The village chief said with a face full of arrogance. Qin Feiyong was stunned again. Earth-ranking 10th? At most, he was just a perfect war god, and he thought he was strong. Afraid, but it's too late. I will definitely make you pay the price for offending me. The village chief sneered. Qin Feiyong nodded. Yes, 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 we are afraid. We are afraid. You are a great person. Don't bother with us. The village chief was even more proud. However, he didn't notice that Madman's eyes were filled with disdain. He didn't even put a heaven-ranking disciple in his eyes, let alone an earth-ranking disciple. Of course, this village chief did have the right to be arrogant. After all, an earth-ranking disciple had a certain status in Nine Heavens Palace. Qin Feiyong was too lazy to talk nonsense with the village chief. He looked around and asked Madman, They still haven't arrived? And Madman nodded. So, but before he finished, the gray castle brought Long Tianyu with it as it broke through the air and landed in front of Qin Feiyong and Long Tianyu. And when the village chief saw Long Tianyu, he was stunned. When Long Tianyu saw the village chief, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. But when he saw Qin Feiyong and Madman, he panicked and shouted, Grandpa Gray, yesterday it was them. Grandpa knows what happened yesterday. That was just a misunderstanding. The gray castle's spirit laughed. What? It can actually speak? The village chief looked at the gray castle with his mouth agape. The gray castle ignored him and smiled at Long Tianyu. Tianyu, they are the two big brothers that Grandpa told you about. From now on, follow them and listen to them. Do you understand? I, Long Tianyu looked at the two of them in fear. Yesterday, when Qin Feiyang controlled him and read his memories, it made him wish he was dead. So until now, he was still a little afraid. Don't be afraid. They are my friends. Yesterday, they didn't know about our relationship. The Gray Castle said. I see. Long Tianyu nodded his head. He looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and smiled politely. Hello, big brothers. Qin Feiyang smiled. Madman pouted and looked at the Gray Castle. Is it over? If it is, we will return to Nine Heavens Palace. Wait, what is going on with him? The artifact spirit asked. It seemed like he was talking about the village chief. Madman said expressionlessly, he is doing something immoral again. So I couldn't take it anymore and attacked. You really won't change. That's good. Once we get rid of this problem, everything is over. The artifact spirit said. He wanted to let Long Tianyu deal with him, but now that Madman and Qin Feiyang attacked, there was nothing he could say. Moreover, it was good to get rid of such a person, in case he harmed others. Then, I will leave Tianyu to you. Right? I didn't tell Tianyu about your true identity. The Gray Castle said to Qin Feiyang in secret. Then, it entered Qin Feiyang's body and continued to repair its body. Let's go. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Tianyu and then at Madman. Madman waved his hand and opened an altar. He grabbed the village chief and jumped up. Qin Feiyang carried Long Tianyu and landed beside Madman. Long Tianyu looked at the village chief and then at Qin Feiyang and asked, Big brother, is Grandpa Village Chief going to Nine Heaven Palace too? Yes. He made a mistake and is going to Nine Heaven Palace to be punished. Qin Feiyang smiled. What mistake did he make? Grandpa Village Chief is a good person. Long Tianyu didn't understand. Qin Feiyang rubbed Long Tianyu's head and smiled. This is a matter between us adults. A kid like you shouldn't interfere. Oh. Long Tianyu nodded. After opening dozens of altars, the four of them finally arrived at the bottom of the stairway. This is Nine Heaven Palace? Long Tianyu looked at the stairway curiously, and Qin Feiyang nodded. Madman looked at the village chief and grinned. Old fart, just you wait. You will see your son soon. The village chief laughed coldly. Then, it will be the time of your death. Haha, Madman laughed. He grabbed the village chief and stepped onto the stairway. Wong. The stairway buzzed. This was because the village chief wasn't someone from Nine Heaven Palace, so the stairway gave off a warning. The white-haired old man sitting beside the stairway suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Madman. Outsiders aren't allowed to enter Nine Heaven Palace. Madman's expression froze. He turned to look at the white-haired old man and said unhappily, Old man, is there a need to be so strict? This is the rule. The white-haired old man said indifferently, Make an exception. Madman smiled. He seemed to be afraid of the white-haired old man. No. The white-haired old man shook his head. Haha. And here I was thinking how powerful you were. You can't even order a gatekeeper old man around. If it was my son, would he not give face? The village chief sneered mercilessly. Gatekeeper old man? Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. This person really wasn't afraid of death. Did he know how strong this old man was? The white-haired old man glanced at the village chief, but there wasn't any anger on his face. It was as if nothing could affect his indifferent state of mind. Old man, I really have something to do. Can you make an exception? Madman looked at the white-haired old man and said, Look, he's not giving you face. If you don't have the ability, then don't be arrogant. The village chief laughed. Chapter 21:12. Shut up. Madman slapped village chief's face with the back of his hand. He was already annoyed, but the village chief didn't know what was good for him and kept nagging at the side. Wasn't he looking for a beating? Little bastard. You hit me? Just you wait, you're dead. Even if the heavens come down, they won't be able to save you. The village chief roared. The white-haired old man looked at the village chief curiously and asked, Frenzy, where did you bring this mad dog back from? Old thing, what did you say? A guard dog dares to be so rude to me. Do you know who my son is? Do you believe that I'll get my son to kill you later? The village chief stared at the white-haired old man and roared. Seeing this scene, Frenzy and Qin Fei Yang looked at each other. He actually scolded. He must be tired of living. The white-haired old man looked at the village chief and then at Frenzy. I'll make an exception this time and let you bring him in. Thank you. Frenzy laughed and immediately grabbed Frenzy and flew up. Qin Fei Yang led Long Tianyu to the white-haired old man and asked, Senior, what about this child? Him? The white-haired old man sized up Long Tianyu and pondered for a moment before saying, at most one day. Thank you, Senior. Qin Fei Yang cupped his hands and expressed his gratitude. Then, he gave Long Tianyu a meaningful glance. Long Tianyu might be young, but he was very sensible. He immediately understood and bowed to the white-haired old man. Thank you, Grandpa. The white-haired old man gave a rare smile and then closed his eyes, ignoring Qin Fei Yang and Frenzy. Let's go. Qin Fei Yang pulled Long Tianyu and walked up the stairway. The moment Long Tianyu walked up the stairway started to give off a warning. And the higher they went, the louder the sound became. Finally, the sound of the stairway was like a bell that resounded in the sky above the Nine-Heaven Palace. What's going on? This is the stairway's warning. Did someone barge into the Nine-Heaven Palace? That's not right. The stairway to heaven is guarded. How could anyone break in? Let's go and take a look. In an instant, the Nine-Heavens Palace was in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the people outside or inside, they all rushed towards the stairway. Because the master of the stairway to heaven was the vice-palace lord. Therefore, even if the white-haired old man agreed, the warning would not disappear. This is Nine-Heaven Palace? So big, how magical. The beasts over there are so strong. When he reached the top of the stairway to heaven, Long Tianyu's heart couldn't help but tremble when he saw the majestic scene before him. The village chief was also dumbfounded. Because this was also his first time entering the Nine-Heavens Palace, he was deeply shocked by the scene before him. Lunatic? Jiang Haoyin? A surprised voice was heard. Following closely, a familiar figure broke through the air and landed on the square. It was Chengli. The outer sanctum was the closest to the stairway to heaven, so as an outer sanctum elder, he was the first to rush over. Who are they? Chengli asked with a frown when he saw the village chief and Long Tianyu. It has nothing to do with you. Scram to the side. Lunatic grabbed the village chief and flew into the air. Qin Fei Yang didn't say anything. He brought Long Tianyu and followed behind Madman, flying towards the inner sect. Looking at the attitude of the two, Cheng Li's eyes flashed with a cold light as he angrily said, Lunatic, Jiang Haoyin, you guys are too presumptuous. You actually dare to bring outsiders into the Nine-Heaven Palace. If you speak any more nonsense, this daddy will kill you. Lunatic turned around and stared at Cheng Li. Cheng Li's pupils immediately shrank as a chill appeared in his heart. Qin Fei Yang pointed below the stairway to heaven and smiled, Elder. This matter has already been approved by that old man. What? Cheng Li was stunned. It's senior brother Lunatic and Jiang Haoyin. Who are that man and child? Why were they brought to the Nine-Heaven Palace? Wait, did you guys notice that senior brother Lunatic's expression is very bad? Along the way, no one dared to block them. But looking at the back of Qin Fei Yang and Lunatic, everyone was filled with suspicion. Inner sect. The Crimson Gold Divine Tower was located at the peak of the mountain, giving off a majestic and ancient aura. Lunatic and Qin Fei Yang brought the village chief and Long Tianyu to the square in front of the Crimson Gold Divine Tower. Qin Fei Yang glanced at the village chief and smiled. This is where your son cultivates. He cultivates in such a place? One look and I can tell that this place is different. Looks like that kid didn't lie to me. He is someone with status in the Nine-Heaven Palace. You guys are all dead. The village chief smiled proudly. Ignorance is scary. Qin Fei Yang shook his head and sighed. Even now, he was still so proud. He was so stupid that no medicine could save him. The village chief didn't notice and shouted, Son, come out. Someone wants to kill your daddy. Behind them, there were already many people surrounding them. Hearing the village chief's words, everyone looked at the village chief in shock. Son? What was going on? At the same time, the first level of the Crimson Gold Divine Tower. A black-clothed youth sat on the ground with a face filled with shock. This seems to be father's voice? But isn't he at home? Why would he appear in the Nine-Heaven Palace? It should be an illusion, the black-clothed youth muttered and closed his eyes, not bothering about it. Ryuko, I am calling you. Do you hear me? Very soon. Another angry roar sounded. It's really Father? But what is going on? Why is Father in the Nine-Heaven Palace? Wait, was the warning from the stairway because of Father? No. Father said that someone wants to kill him. Father is asking for help. He got up and left the Crimson Gold Divine Tower with killing intent. He shouted, "Who is so bold to hurt my father?" Outside, Long Xiang's voice also came out of the Crimson Gold Divine Pagoda, echoing above the Divine Pagoda for a long time. Just you wait. Next year today will be the anniversary of your death. When the village chief heard Ryuko's voice, he immediately looked at Qin Feiyong and Madman and sneered. The corner of Madman's mouth lifted slightly, full of ridicule. I understand. It's probably that Ryuko's father accidentally offended Madman. So Madman brought him into the Nine-Heaven Palace to find trouble with Ryuko. Your guess shouldn't be too far from the truth. Is this person stupid? He actually dared to offend senior brother Madman? The most ridiculous thing is that he thought that his son Ryuko can support him. What an idiot! Who doesn't know senior brother Madman's means? Even a heaven-list disciple can't enter senior brother Madman's eyes, let alone a mere earth-list disciple. The disciples gathered at the back slowly guessed the general situation and whispered. Their faces were full of ridicule. Boom! The door of the Crimson Gold Divine Tower opened. A black-clothed youth strode out, his face full of anger. It was Ryuko. Ryuko? He glanced around and raised his head to look at the village chief. Seeing that Madman and Qin Feiyong were also there, he was slightly stunned. Immediately, he hurriedly flew up and cupped his hands. Thank you for bringing my father into the Nine-Heaven Palace. Son, why are you thanking them? The village chief frowned. Of course I have to thank them. They brought you into the Nine-Heaven Palace. This is a great kindness. Ryuko said. He still didn't know about the grudge between the village chief and Qin Feiyong. He only thought that Qin Feiyong and Madman were kind enough to bring his father into the Nine-Heaven Palace. After saying that, Ryuko ignored the stunned village chief and turned to look at Long Tianyu, who was standing beside Qin Feiyong. He smiled and said, Tianyu, you're here too. Long Tianyu giggled and said, Brother Xiang, long time no see. After all, they were from the same village, so they must be very familiar with each other. Ryuko looked at village chief and Long Tianyu and asked, Father, Tianyu, who wants to kill you? Hurry up and tell me. I'll take you to destroy him right away. Kill him? Madman said. Yes. How dare he bully the family of Ryuko Ryuyang. Even if he is the god of heaven, I will not let him off. Ryuko said coldly. Really? So, you want to kill me? The madman smiled playfully as he looked at Ryuko. What? Ryuko was stunned. He quickly looked at the madman and smiled. How could I kill you? I'm talking about the person who wanted to kill my father. Village chief cried out, Son, they are the ones who want to kill me. Them? Ryuko was startled. He looked at village chief and asked, Father, who are they? In his opinion, his father would definitely not offend the madman and Qin Feiyong. Village chief pointed at the madman and Qin Feiyong and said, The two of them? What? Ryuko was petrified. The people his father was talking about were the madman and Jiang Haoyan? What was going on? The village was so far away from Nine-Heaven Palace. How did his father offend these two? The madman crossed his arms in front of his chest, his eyes filled with playfulness. Ryuko came back to his senses and looked at Qin Feiyong and Jiang Haoyan. He asked, Senior brother Madman, Junior brother Jiang, is this true? Qin Feiyong smiled. Your father said it himself. How could it be false? Long Xiang felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. His body stiffened, and his face instantly turned deathly pale. It was actually true. It was these two people who wanted to kill his father. Not to mention Jiang Haoyan. This madman was a lawless person. How could his father offend him? Son, what are you doing? Teach them a lesson. They almost killed me. Village chief said angrily. Shut up. Ryuko suddenly raised his head and stared at Village Chief. Village Chief's expression suddenly froze. Then he turned to Ryuko and scolded him. What kind of attitude is this? I worked so hard to raise you. Now that you have grown up and your wings have hardened, you treat me like this? Interesting. The playfulness on the madman's face became stronger. Qin Feiyong also had a smile on his face. Looking at the smiles on Qin Feiyong and Jiang Haoyan's faces, Ryuko was burning with anxiety. He shouted at Village Chief, "Shut up, shut up. If you continue like this, you will get me killed." What a joke. You are now an Earthroll disciple. Who dares to touch you? I think you have hardened your wings. You don't even listen to me, Village Chief said angrily. Chapter 21:13. Is this person from the countryside? Does he think that an Earth-Roll disciple is invincible? Even a Heaven-Roll disciple doesn't dare to be arrogant in front of senior brother Madman. What is an Earth-Roll disciple? Just watch, Ryuko Yang will definitely be killed by him. Everyone looked at the village chief with disdain in their eyes. Ryuko Yang saw that the village chief not only didn't restrain himself, but instead became even more aggressive, making him anxious. Pa! He raised his hand and slapped the village chief's face. The village chief was stunned on the spot. Ryuko Yang wasn't in the mood to mess around with the village chief, as long as he could shut the village chief up. Immediately after, he knelt down in the air and looked at Madman. Senior brother, this must be a misunderstanding. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with us, okay? The village chief was a vain person to begin with. After being slapped by his son in public, how could he hold back his face? When he came back to his senses, he wanted to get angry, but Ryuko Yang suddenly knelt down, making him dumbfounded. What was going on? His son was an Earthroll disciple, but he actually knelt down in front of this person? Misunderstanding? I don't think this is a misunderstanding. This old man of yours is more than a little arrogant. Not only has he been rude to me, but he even said that this day next year will be my death anniversary. Madman chuckled. What? He actually said such words? Ryuko Yang's eyes trembled as he looked at the village chief and shouted, "Quickly kneel down and kowtow to senior brother Madman and apologize." Kowtow and apologize? The village chief began to panic. He also slowly realized that the two young people in front of him weren't that simple. Hurry up, Ryuko Yang said angrily. The father of an Earth-Roll disciple kowtowing to me. I'm afraid I can't accept it. After all, an Earth-Roll disciple has status and place in our 9-Heaven Palace, Madman said. No, no, no. My father only bragged because he didn't know. In front of you, senior brother, what am I? I'm not even a dog. Ryuko smiled flatteringly. Looking at the lowly Ryuko kneeling in front of the madman, the village chief panicked. If even an Earth-ranking disciple was so terrified, one could imagine how high the position of this madman in 9-Heaven's palace was. It seemed that this time, he had really gotten himself into big trouble. Ryuko roared, "Kneel." Village chief trembled and immediately knelt down in front of Madman. His face was filled with fear as he thought to himself, "Son, where did this person come from? He is someone we can never afford to offend. There are over 10 million disciples in the 9-Heavens Palace, and he is the #1 disciple. No one has ever dared to be arrogant in front of him. If he wants to kill us, even heavenly deities won't be able to stop him. Dad, you're in big trouble this time. How did you offend him? Can't you be more careful?" Ryuko was furious. When the village chief heard this, he immediately collapsed to the ground. Who would have thought that this seemingly unremarkable young man would be so terrifying? Not so arrogant anymore? Where's the arrogance from before? Madman said. I'm sorry. Village chief's expression changed as he hurriedly kowtowed and apologized. Just a word of sorry and it's over? Then where will I put my face in the future? You're really tired of being arrogant in front of me. If you're not arrogant, then I'll be arrogant. Now, I'll let you see what true arrogance is. Madman kicked the village chief's face, causing his face to be mangled. He lay in the air and howled miserably. Following that, Madman slapped Ryuko's face again. Long Xiang's face was also lacerated, flesh and blood flying everywhere. Did you see that? slapping an earth-ranking disciple in public. This is true arrogance. Who do you think you are? Madman laughed angrily. Senior brother, spare me, spare me. How could Ryuko care about the injuries on his face? He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. As for the village chief, it was too late for regrets. How did he provoke such a terrifying fiend? Madman spat on the ground with a face full of disdain. He looked at Ryuko and said, Ryuko, I'll ask you one thing. Do you know what your father did in the village? Ryuko was slightly taken aback as he raised his head and looked at Madman in surprise. Answer me, Madman shouted. Ryuko trembled as he turned to look at the village chief. He shook his head and said, I don't know. You don't know? Then why are you hesitating? Zhang Haoyan read his memories. I want to see if he's telling the truth. Madman said, Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He formed a seal with both hands, and a puppet imprint appeared. Madman said, If you dare to resist, I'll kill you now. Ryuko originally wanted to resist. Although he didn't know what the imprint was, from Madman's words, it wasn't hard to guess that it should be a secret technique that could read the memories of others. Reading his memories, how could he let that happen? However, when he heard Madman's warning, he didn't dare to resist. He lowered his head and said bitterly, There's no need to read my memories. I admit that I know everything. I knew you were lying. Since you knew, why didn't you stop it? Just because you're a small disciple of Nine Heaven Palace, you and your father can do whatever you want in the village? Madman roared. It's my fault, my fault. In the past, I tried to persuade him, but he didn't listen. What could I do? He's my father after all. Ryuko shouted. Persuaded? Why don't I believe you? Madman sneered and looked at Qin Feiyang. Control him. I want to know the truth. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the imprint turned into a stream of light and entered Ryuko's head. After controlling Ryuko, he immediately read Ryuko's memories. Long Xiang immediately howled miserably. A moment later, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Madman and said, Senior brother, you're really good at predicting things. When Ryuko heard this, he became nervous. What do you mean? Madman was suspicious. Not only did he not stop his father, but he also often bullied people in the village. There are more than a dozen girls in the village who were all harmed by him, and his methods of torturing others are better than his father, Qin Feiyang said. Ryuko was in despair. He could actually read his memories. What? There are more than a dozen girls who were all ruined by him? Madman was dumbfounded, unable to believe it to the extreme. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, and after he ruined them, they were all killed by him. Bastard, you are simply the scum of scum, and the shame of our Nine Heavens Palace. For a person like you, even if you were to be cut into pieces, it would not be enough to relieve the hatred in my heart. Madman flew into a rage and slammed his palm towards Long Xiang's head. Don't kill me, senior brother. I was wrong. I will definitely change in the future. Ryuko roared in horror. However, Madman turned a deaf ear and didn't show any mercy. He slapped the top of Long Xiang's head. Suddenly, a scream resounded through the sky. Along with the scream, Ryuko's head exploded on the spot like a watermelon, and blood dyed the surroundings red. Son, the village chief stared dumbfoundedly at the corpse that was slowly falling down, his entire body sinking into deep fear. Madman smiled in disdain, looked at the village chief, and said, Didn't you always say that when you see your son, it will be the time of our death? What about now? The village chief quivered and hurriedly begged, Lord, please spare my life. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I'm sorry. Actually, I admire your courage, because you are the first person who dares to be arrogant in front of me. Unfortunately, you are also very stupid. Because of your stupidity, not only did you kill yourself, you also killed your son. Madman grabbed the village chief and flew towards a mountain not far away. Madman, what is he trying to do? It's definitely not a good thing. Ryuko Yang was indeed killed. How pitiful. Pitiful? Didn't you hear Jiang Haoyan say before that this father and son pair bullied men and women in the village? There were more than 10 girls in the village who were all ruined by Ryuko Yang. This kind of scum deserves to die. I'm just curious, how did Madman and Jiang Haoyan find out about this? I also know that Ryuko Yang. We even drank together a few times. His village is far from our Nine-Heaven Palace. It seems that we have to open more than 10 altars to get there. Maybe someone snitched on him. It's also possible that they accidentally bumped into him. People discussed in low voices. Madman said. He grabbed the village chief and landed in the sky above the mountain range. Fierce beasts were everywhere in the mountain range, and each of them had terrifying strength, with the weakest being a monarch god. However, these fierce beasts would not harm the disciples of Nine-Heaven Palace. Madman glanced at the mountain range, smiled coldly, and crippled the village chief's cultivation. Then, he let go of the village chief, and the village chief fell down powerlessly. Madman shouted, "Tear him apart for me." Madman's words caused the originally docile fierce beasts to become ferocious. They bared their fangs and pounced at the village chief. Damn, he wants those fierce beasts to tear him apart bit by bit. Madman, this fellow is too cruel. Seeing this scene, the faces of all the disciples present turned pale. At the same time, hearing Madman's words, the village chief's body and mind trembled. "No, I beg you, let me go. Who can be merciful and save me?" He struggled with all his might, shouting with all his might, but no one paid any attention to him. What a joke. This was someone that Madman wanted to kill. Who would dare to save him? Without any suspense, the outcome was already decided. Those fierce beasts pounced forward as if they were fighting over a delicious cake. Miserable screams resounded through the sky. Qin Feiyang also looked at this scene indifferently, but suddenly, a childish voice sounded from the side. Why is this happening? Qin Feiyang was stunned and lowered his head to look at Long Tianyu. He saw Long Tianyu looking at the dismembered village chief. His small face couldn't help but turn pale. He also had a trace of puzzlement. Long Tianyu gathered his courage and looked at Qin Feiyang. Big brother, Grandpa village chief is such a good person. Why do you want to kill him? The human heart is sinister. Some people are not as simple as they seem. Even if I tell you now, you won't understand. When you grow up in the future, you will naturally understand. Qin Feiyang smiled. However, Long Tianyu's performance made him look at him in a different light. An ordinary 12 or 13-year-old youth would definitely be scared to tears when they saw such a bloody scene. Although Long Tianyu looked a little scared, at least he wasn't scared out of his wits. This meant that he had experienced a lot in the past, and his temperament had been tempered, surpassing his peers. Chapter 21:14. The village chief and Ryuko had died one after another, and their fates were so miserable. But in the madman's heart, there was still resentment that he couldn't find a way to vent. Because when he thought of those girls who were humiliated by Ryuko and then killed by him, he couldn't calm down. What are you thinking about? Qin Feiyang pulled Long Tianyu forward and asked suspiciously, "Why do you think there is such a scum in this world? It's not an exaggeration to say that he's worse than pigs and dogs." The madman said, "This kind of thing is very common. It's just that you stay in Nine-Heaven Palace all year round and don't know." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. It could be seen that the madman didn't know much about the cruelty of the outside world, but he was already used to it. Very common? The madman frowned, and Qin Feiyang nodded his head. "No, this resentment is stuck in my heart. If I don't vent it out, I will definitely go crazy." The madman shook his head and turned to fly towards the sky stairway. "Where are you going?" Qin Feiyang hurriedly asked. "To get rid of evil for the people, punish evil and promote good," the madman said without turning his head. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman's back in shock. He didn't expect that this devil incarnate actually had a kind heart. Very soon, the madman disappeared without a trace. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He left just like that. What a willful fellow. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly shouted and chased after him with Long Tianyu. "What?" The madman stopped in the air and waited for Qin Feiyang. When Qin Feiyang caught up, he asked suspiciously. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Tianyu and said, "Bring this little fellow with you." "Bring him?" The madman's expression stiffened and then said, "What kind of joke is this? I don't want to bring a burden." "I'm not a burden." Long Tianyu looked at Madman with dissatisfaction. "With your little bit of cultivation, I can kill you with a single breath. Aren't you just a burden? Young man, can you have some self-awareness?" Madman's face was full of disdain. Long Tianyu glared at the madman. His face was filled with displeasure, but he wasn't afraid at all. "You still dare to glare at me?" Madman raised his eyebrows. "Humph. You are very strong now, but I will definitely surpass you in the future." Long Tianyu snorted coldly. "Ouch!" Madman exclaimed and then rubbed his chin. He sized up Long Tianyu and laughed. "You have guts. Okay, since you said that, I will bring you along." A smile appeared on Qin Feiyang's face. He lowered his head and looked at Long Tianyu. "Although he has a bad temper, he's really strong. If you learn from him, it will be of great help to your future growth." "All right." Long Tianyu nodded and flew to Madman's side. Madman's face was cold. "Kid, if you follow me, you have to listen to me no matter what. Do you understand?" "If it makes sense, I will listen," Long Tianyu said. "Damn, you have a personality," Madman chuckled, grabbed Long Tianyu, and tore through the air without looking back. Qin Feiyang watched the two of them leave. "Qin Feiyang, why did you let Tianyu follow him? With that guy's personality, he will teach Tianyu to be a little madman sooner or later." The voice of the artifact spirit suddenly rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang laughed inwardly. "A big madman and a little madman. Not bad. I'm not joking. Tianyu is like my grandson in my eyes. I don't want him to be like that madman and be crazy all day long." The artifact spirit said, "I'm not joking either. Don't look down on Madman. Although he is a little abnormal, his heart is very meticulous. If Madman is really going to punish evil and promote good, then Long Tianyu will be able to learn a lot by following him. For example, the ugliness of human nature, darkness, and scheming. The most important thing is that in the process of Madman punishing evil and promoting good, he will be able to learn what is good and what is justice. This will be very helpful for his growth in the future." Qin Feiyang thought. "So it's like that." The artifact spirit was enlightened and smiled happily. "I didn't misjudge you. You are a talent and a good teacher." "Teacher?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and shook his head. "I didn't say that I will take Long Tianyu as my disciple. Moreover, in front of you, I don't have the qualifications. Although this exalted is stronger than you, in terms of teaching, I am truly ashamed of my inferiority. Why don't you spend some effort and help me teach him a lesson?" The artifact spirit said with a pleading tone. Try your best. There is a good saying, the master can show you the way, but the cultivation depends on the person. What path to take in the end will depend on his own choice. Qin Feiyang said. "That's true." The artifact spirit said, "This ninth heaven palace is not a good place." Qin Feiyang was surprised and asked, "What do you mean?" "I control the power of death, so I am very sensitive to evil things. The moment I entered the ninth heaven palace, I felt a terrifying evil aura in the deepest part of the ninth heaven palace." The artifact spirit said, "Evil aura, the deepest part of the ninth heaven palace." Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at the depths of the ninth heaven palace, his eyes flickering. What kind of evil thing could it be that even the gray castle was so concerned about it? Zhang Haoyin. Suddenly, a hearty laughter rang out, interrupting Qin Feiyang's thoughts. Qin Feiyang looked over and saw a purple-clothed youth, stepping into the air step by step. It was Mu Tianyang. A smile also appeared on Qin Feiyang's face. Mu Tianyang said, "Let's go to the cave for a chat?" "Sure." Qin Feiyang nodded. The two of them walked together and entered the first sacred peak. Inside the first cave, the two sat opposite each other. Mu Tianyang asked, "That village chief, is it the mission that Shangguan Fenglan gave you?" "You can say so." Qin Feiyang nodded. "You're just fooling me. How could the dignified law enforcement hall master let you handle such a small matter?" Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes. I really can't fool you. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Mu Tianyang's eyes revealed a trace of disdain and said, "Is it related to that young man?" And Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at the tightly closed stone door and said, "This matter is complicated. Let's go to the Black Tortoise world and talk about it slowly." Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed. To be so cautious, it seemed that it was not a small matter. Black Tortoise world, medicine field, courtyard. Qin Feiyang did not hide anything from Mu Tianyang about what he had experienced in the past 2 days. What? He actually obtained another heaven-defying divine artifact? Mu Tianyang was dumbstruck when he heard this. The gray castle appeared and said unhappily, "I didn't get it. I was just temporarily helping him." Mu Tianyang looked at the gray castle with a trace of doubt in his eyes. What? The artifact spirit was suspicious. "I'm a little puzzled. You are a demonic creature. Why are you so good to a human child? Don't blame me for being suspicious. You followed Qin Feiyang. Are you up to something?" Mu Tianyang said. "Up to something." Qin Feiyang also looked at the gray castle without batting an eyelid. In fact, he also thought so. But there was no evidence, and he couldn't make an assertion. Up to something? With my strength, if I really have some up to something, do I need to hide like this? The artifact spirit was disdainful. That's not necessarily true. After all, it's not the first time I've come into contact with a heaven-defying divine artifact like you. Existences like you, without a purpose, how can you help us humans? Mu Tianyang said. The artifact spirit sneered. Don't measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Good, good, good. I'm a villain. Let's not talk about this for the time being. What I want to know the most is, are Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang really in the Sky Dragon Sea? Mu Tianyang said. If they were really there before, I can swear, but now it's hard to say. I have to go and find them to know. The artifact spirit said. Sky Dragon Sea. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Since we have a clue now, we should go to the Sky Dragon Sea as soon as possible." I think so too. But now, we are working in the resource hall. Without a suitable excuse, we can't leave. Qin Feiyang frowned. This is a small matter. I'll solve it. And I have a good news here. Mu Tianyang smiled. What good news? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked. Mu Tianyang smiled, took out the image crystal, and with a wave of his hand, a picture slowly unfolded in the void above. Qin Feiyang looked up curiously, and a flash of light flashed in his eyes. It was actually an image. In the video, Feng Yuan sat in the lounge on the second floor of the resource hall, and his face was extremely gloomy. Opposite, Mu Tianyang stood respectfully with his head lowered, and there was a trace of nervousness on his face. Didn't I ask you to cooperate with them to kill Jiang Haoyin and Huayi? Now tell me, what did you do at that time? Feng Yuan said angrily. Mu Tianyang's face changed, and he hurriedly said, Hall Master, you can't blame me for this. If I don't blame you, then blame me? In that situation, as long as you took action, Jiang Haoyin and Huayi would definitely die. Feng Yuan shouted. Hall Master, although Jiang Haoyin and Huayi would definitely die if I took action, wouldn't I become an accomplice? If there was no one at that time, it would be different. But at that time, there were thousands of people outside the North City Gate, and they were all watching, and Madman just happened to rush over. You know Madman's character. If he saw me helping those assassins to kill Jiang Haoyin and Huayi, then my little life would definitely be gone. Mu Tianyang's face was full of grievances. Bastard! Compared to Jiang Haoyin and Huayi's lives, what is your life? Feng Yuan was furious. Mu Tianyang's face suddenly sank, and he said, Hall Master, what do you mean by this? In your eyes, I'm just a chess piece? Then what do you think you are? A cooperative relationship? You think you're worthy? You should know that right now, your little life is already in my hands. If I want to kill you, it's as simple as stepping on an ant. Feng Yuan sneered. Mu Tianyang said angrily, When I followed you, you didn't say that. Yes, at that time, this old man was very polite to you, but that was only at that time. And now, do you have the qualifications to negotiate with this old man? Feng Yuan sneered. Chapter 21:15. Mu Tianyang was furious. You're burning the bridge after crossing the river. I really regret letting you control me back then. No wonder Gu Yong betrayed you. A sinister villain like you is not worthy of our service. Slap. After Mu Tianyang finished speaking, Feng Yuan stood up angrily and slapped Mu Tianyang's face. A blood-red palm print appeared. The corner of Mu Tianyang's mouth also flowed with blood. Feng Yuan laughed. Do you believe that this old man will kill you right now? Of course. But if you kill me, you'll never get rid of Jiang Haoyin. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but you don't have the ability. Mu Tianyang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered. Feng Yuan flew into a rage out of humiliation and raised his arm again, but it stopped in the air and did not slap down. Mu Tianyang did not show the slightest fear, and even looked at him provocatively. Haha, Feng Yuan suddenly laughed and lowered his arm. He returned to his seat and said, You do have some value. It's a pity to kill you. It's good that you know, Mu Tianyang said. Feng Yuan said, Then tell me, how can we get rid of Jiang Haoyin? I've already said that this matter can't be rushed. To deal with Jiang Haoyin, we have to do it step by step, Mu Tianyang said. All right, this old man won't make a move for now. Find an opportunity. This old man still has things to do. You can leave now. Feng Yuan waved his hand. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed. I have another question. What question? Feng Yuan looked at him in confusion. Mu Tianyang said, Who assassinated Ma Guang and those assassins? Does this have anything to do with you? Feng Yuan frowned. Of course it does. This person can kill Ma Guang and the others under the eyes of lunatic without anyone noticing. One can imagine that he must be very strong. If I can get him to help me, it will definitely be twice the result with half the effort, Mu Tianyang said confidently. Feng Yuan was stunned and asked, You mean you want him to follow you? Listen to your orders? Yes. Mu Tianyang nodded. Haha, you're getting more and more arrogant. You actually want to order this old man around? Feng Yuan was rocking back and forth with laughter. He looked at Mu Tianyang as if he was looking at a clown. What? Are you the one who killed Ma Guang and the others? Mu Tianyang was bewildered. That's right. It's me. Who asked Ma Guang to be so talkative? Aren't you courting death? Feng Yuan sneered. You actually took action personally? Mu Tianyang was shocked. You may leave. If you want this old man to continue nurturing you, then show me your true strength and methods, Feng Yuan said coldly. Mu Tianyang took a deep look at Feng Yuan, then turned and left the lounge. The video ended there. You actually got something out of him. Impressive. Qin Feiyang gave Mu Tianyang a thumbs up. It's nothing, but that slap really hurt. Mu Tianyang touched his face, a trace of murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Qin Feiyang said, Sooner or later, I'll make him pay for it, and it will be 100 times more. Mu Tianyang smiled coldly, put away the video crystal and said, As Lunatic said, this evidence is not enough. I know. There's no hurry. Take your time. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Mu Tianyang nodded and took out another interspatial ring. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Mu Tianyang said, Soul stones. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang quickly grabbed the interspatial ring and checked it. Sure enough, it was full of soul stones. Mu Tianyang said, A total of 350 million. 350 million? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Although the first 4 symbols Infinite Divine Pill was sold for a sky-high price of 1 billion, that was because Lunatic and Feng Zihan were fighting. When the second pill was auctioned, Hua Yi and I also played with Yu Zijie. But Yu Zijie seemed to have received news that we were bidding on behalf of Feng Yuan, so he tactfully withdrew. The second pill was only sold for 400 million. As for the third pill, Hua Yi and I didn't bid. Feng Zihan also didn't bid. Only Yu Zijie competed with others. In the end, Yu Zijie got it for 200 million. Mu Tianyang said, Only 200 million? Qin Feiyang frowned. 200 million is already a lot. Okay? After all, it only takes 100 million soul stones to cultivate from a perfect war god to a half-step monarch god. In other words, The price of the four symbols infinite divine pill has doubled. Besides, in the northern region, how many people have the ability to take out hundreds of millions of soul stones at once? Mu Tianyang said, That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. 1 billion, 400 million, 200 million. In total, the three four symbols infinite divine pills that were auctioned yesterday were worth a total of 1.6 billion soul stones. We'll get 800 million. Then, after deducting Huayi's hush money, we only have 700 million left. So, the two of us can only get 350 million each. Mu Tianyang said. You really gave him hush money? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel his heart ache. Huayi's hush money was 50 million per person. In other words, Huayi didn't do anything and took away 100 million soul stones from him and Mu Tianyang. What if he doesn't give it to us? If it really leaks out that the four symbols infinite divine pill was refined by us, then there will be a lot of trouble. It's better to spend some money to shut his mouth. Mu Tianyang was helpless. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. Mu Tianyang continued, But this person is also tactful. I guarantee that in the future, he won't come and extort us again. If a person is not satisfied, then it will bring about a fatal disaster. He is a smart person, so he will definitely think of this. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang asked, Then I'll go and plan, and then set off for the Sky Dragon Sea? All right. Qin Feiyang nodded, and then brought Mu Tianyang and the Gray Castle out of the Black Tortoise realm, appearing in the cave. Mu Tianyang did not delay, and immediately turned to leave. The artifact spirit looked at Mu Tianyang's back and transmitted, This person is not simple. Qin Feiyang was stunned, and asked curiously, What do you mean? The artifact spirit said, I can sense a dangerous aura on him. You're quite observant. This person is indeed not simple, because he also has a heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyang said. What? The artifact spirit was shocked. When did heaven-defying divine artifacts become so worthless? Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something and asked, By the way, I have something to ask you. Is Frenzy's spatial divine artifact also a heaven-defying divine artifact? Yes. The artifact spirit replied. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He was just guessing, but he didn't expect it to be true. And according to my guess, that spatial divine artifact should also have a time array. And it's not a low-level time array, the artifact spirit said. No wonder he wanted to hide it from me, afraid that I would go in. It turns out that there is a time array. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Wait, low-level? There is a difference between low-level and high-level time arrays? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Of course there is. The artifact spirit said. How? Qin Feiyang was immediately interested. High-level, low-level. Low-level time arrays can change the rules of time. At most 10 years, 10 to 1,000 years belongs to the mid-level time array. And more than 1,000 years belongs to the high-level time array, the artifact spirit explained. What? 1 day is equal to 1,000 years. Qin Feiyang was shocked. You can never imagine the things in this world. 1,000 years is nothing. It is said that some time arrays can change the rules of time, up to 10,000 years. The artifact spirit said. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. 1 day is equal to 10,000 years. This is too terrifying. He didn't even dare to think about it. Qin Feiyang asked, Then how can one set up a time array? The artifact spirit said, An existence that has mastered the law of time can set up a time array. Master the law of time? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. Suddenly, he thought of Mu Tianyang's blood blade and asked, That time reversal, is it considered the law of time? Of course. The artifact spirit replied. In that case, can't the blood blade also set up a time array? In that case, why did Mu Tianyang go to the Crimson Gold Divine Tower? Qin Feiyang frowned. Of course, things like divine artifacts can't set up a time array. For example, this lord doesn't have this ability, the artifact spirit said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, Why? Because the power of law contained in divine artifacts is bestowed by the person who forged them. In other words, artifact spirits like us don't fully comprehend the power of law. Without fully comprehending the power of law, naturally, we can't set up a time array. The artifact spirit explained patiently. So that's the case. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Then this could be explained. Although the blood blade could use the law of time, it hadn't fully comprehended it, so it couldn't set up a time array. In that case, Mu Tianyang could only think of another way. Previously, he thought that Mu Tianyang might be up to something again, but in the end, it was just him being paranoid. Being too paranoid was not a good thing. Suddenly, the artifact spirit was surprised and sent a sound transmission. Someone is coming. This lord will avoid it first. With that, the gray castle rushed into Qin Feiyang's chi-si like lightning. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at the stone door. Sure enough, in less than 3 breaths, the stone door was pushed open, and a woman in light purple slowly walked into the cave. Qin Feiyang hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Disciple Jiang Haoyan greets Lord Palace Master. That's right. The person who came was Shangguan Fenglan. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "This lunatic is really too reckless. He actually brought you to the far west. Fortunately, it's not a big deal." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Senior brother lunatic also wanted to bring me to see the world. Then did you see anything?" Shangguan Fenglan asked. Qin Feiyang said, "We have investigated the cause of death of those law enforcers. They died at the hands of the frost apes in the far west." Shangguan Fenglan said, "You should know that this lord is not asking about this." "Then what is it?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Long Tianyu has already been brought to the Nine Heavens Palace by you. Don't you know? Don't play dumb in front of this lord. This lord wants to know the reason for Long Tianyu's talent transformation." Shangguan Fenglan said, "Lord is asking about this." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood, then lowered his head and said, "To be honest, Lord, we have not investigated this matter clearly." Chapter 21:16. "I didn't find out," Shangguan Fenglan murmured. She slowly walked into the living room and sat on a chair. She looked up at Qin Feiyang with an extremely unfriendly expression and said, "Do you take me for a fool?" "I wouldn't dare." Qin Feiyang hurriedly bowed. "I think you don't take me seriously." Shangguan Fenglan slammed her palm on the armrest of the chair. Her face was full of anger as she shouted, "You can even read Ryuko Yang's memories. I don't believe that you can't read Long Tianyu's memories." Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect that Ryuko Yang's matter would spread to Shangguan Fenglan's ears so quickly. Although at that time, when he controlled Ryuko Yang, he didn't mention the name of the puppet technique. Everyone was not stupid. They would definitely think that it was a kind of secret technique. Shangguan Fenglan smiled coldly and said meaningfully, "I also didn't expect that you actually have such a secret technique." Qin Feiyang was a little flustered. Shangguan Fenglan shouted, "I want to hear the truth." This, Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, I'll tell you. I did read Long Tianyu's memories and also know that the reason for his talent transformation is because of a divine artifact." Divine artifact? Shangguan Fenglan was surprised. This answer was a little unexpected. Yes, in the deepest part of the land of the far west, there is a divine artifact. When Frenzy and I rushed there, we also saw that divine artifact. But that divine artifact was too terrifying. We were no match for it at all, and could only flee in panic. Qin Feiyang said, "What kind of divine artifact?" Shangguan Fenglan asked curiously. "It's a gray ancient castle. It controls the power of death and can seize vitality and erode the divine soul." Qin Feiyang said, "Seize vitality, erode the divine soul," Shangguan Fenglan murmured. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, her body trembled slightly and she asked, "Are you sure it's the power of death?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "How could it be?" Shangguan Fenglan suddenly stood up, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said in a deep voice, "This matter, only you and Frenzy know. Don't tell anyone else, understand?" "Yes," Qin Feiyang replied. However, he was a little puzzled. Did Shangguan Fenglan know the origin of Grey Castle? And Shangguan Fenglan originally wanted to leave, but she suddenly stopped. She turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "When Madman returns, have him bring Long Tianyu to see me. Forget it? I'll personally send a message. ISSS without 8TT what?" Qin Feiyang frowned. TST, est, S-Fons. A blurry gray figure appeared. It was the spirit of the gray castle. The spirit looked at Qin Feiyang and said anxiously, "Qin Feiyang, don't let her see Tianyu." "Why? You really know her?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "I do know her. And we have a grudge. If Tianyu falls into her hands, he won't have a good time," the spirit said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Then why didn't you tell me just now?" If the spirit had told him earlier that he had a grudge with Shangguan Fenglan, he wouldn't have told the truth. For example, he could have fabricated a divine weapon and then told Frenzy, and Shangguan Fenglan wouldn't be able to find out. "It's been too long. I didn't think of it just now. When I heard her last words, I realized something was wrong. So I thought about it carefully and remembered the grudge with her." The spirit sighed. Qin Feiyang said suspiciously, "Then what's the grudge between you two? Why are you so flustered?" "This grudge isn't ordinary. Let's put it this way. You two can be considered life and death enemies," the spirit said. "Life and death enemies? How could you forget such a serious matter? I really admire you." Qin Feiyang was speechless to the extreme. "We'll talk about this later. Quickly think of a way to inform Frenzy to hide Tianyu," the spirit urged. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "I didn't establish a contract with Frenzy." "Then what should we do?" "Tianyu can't enter Ninth Heaven Palace again," the spirit said. "Don't worry. This matter hasn't reached the point where it can't be resolved." Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. Although the spirit was anxious, it didn't disturb Qin Feiyang. A moment later, Qin Feiyang finally raised his head and looked at the spirit with a smile. "Let Long Tianyu come back? Are you kidding me?" the spirit said angrily. "Don't be anxious. Let me finish. Although your relationship with Long Tianyu isn't shallow, only Frenzy and I know about this matter. Shangguan Fenglan doesn't know anything. The people in the village also don't know anything. So, as long as Frenzy and I don't say anything, no matter how Shangguan Fenglan investigates, she won't know the true relationship between you and Long Tianyu." Qin Feiyang smiled. The spirit pondered for a moment and asked, "And then? When Long Tianyu comes back, Shangguan Fenglan will interrogate him. At that time, we'll secretly tell Long Tianyu that you've only met him once and don't know why you're helping him. He's still a child. Shangguan Fenglan won't think that he would lie. This way, Shangguan Fenglan won't be able to do anything to him. At most, she'll send someone to secretly monitor him. And as I expected, Shangguan Fenglan will definitely make an exception and let Long Tianyu stay in Ninth Heaven Palace, because it's easier to monitor him in Ninth Heaven Palace." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Not only can we resolve the crisis, but we can also stay in Ninth Heaven Palace. Hearing you say that, it's not a bad idea." "Okay, I'll listen to you." The spirit pondered for a moment and nodded. "Thank you for your trust in me. You go and recuperate first. I'll go to the stairway to heaven now and wait for Frenzy and Long Tianyu," Qin Feiyang said. The spirit disappeared in an instant. Qin Feiyang also turned and flew out of the cave, heading towards the stairway to heaven. It was evening when they came out of the far west land. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy stayed in the village for a while before returning to Ninth Heaven Palace. In other words, it was still nighttime. The sky of Ninth Heaven Palace was different from the far west land. The full moon was in the sky, and the stars were shining brightly. Just as Qin Feiyang left the cave, another figure flew out from cave number 4. It was Huai. "Why are you still running out in the middle of the night? It shouldn't be anything good. Let's follow and see." Huai looked at Qin Feiyang's back suspiciously. He muttered a few words and silently entered the mountains below, following behind Qin Feiyang. "Qin Feiyang, someone is following you." In the sky, Qin Feiyang didn't notice Huai following him. However, the tool spirit immediately discovered it and secretly informed Qin Feiyang. "What? Someone is following me?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. "Don't look back. He's hiding in the mountains below. But this person's cultivation seems a bit weak. He's a perfect war god," the spirit said. perfect war god? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Sneaky, and he's a perfect war god? A figure immediately appeared in Qin Feiyong's mind. He thought, where did he come from? The artifact spirit said, it's the fourth abode next to yours. It's really him. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but have a headache. You know him? The spirit asked. And his name is Hui. We entered Empyrean Palace together. Our relationship, it's okay, Qin Feiyong thought. But you still have to be careful. Although this person's cultivation is weak, he gives me a great sense of crisis. This sense of crisis is not inferior to Mu Tianyang's heaven-defying divine artifact, the spirit said solemnly. What? Qin Feiyong was secretly shocked. He knew that Hui wasn't simple, but he didn't expect him to hide so deeply. The spirit said, I'm a bit puzzled now. Puzzled about what? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. I'm puzzled. Why is it that the people you know are all mysterious and unfathomable? The spirit was confused. Frenzy, Mu Tianyang, Hui. Each one was more mysterious than the other. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly when he heard this. Actually, I'm also quite puzzled. By the way, do you have a grudge with Shangguan Fenglan? A mere Shangguan Fenglan is nothing. The spirit immediately smiled disdainfully. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was curious. It's a secret for the time being, the spirit said. Qin Feiyong's face darkened. Wasn't this deliberately whetting his appetite? But since the spirit didn't want to say, he couldn't force it. After all, it was a heaven-defying demonic being and had a temper. Angering such an existence wouldn't do him any good. Not long after, Qin Feiyong rushed to the top of the sky stairway and looked down. He didn't go down and just waited at the top. Time passed quietly. Junior brother Jiang, why are you standing here? During this period, many disciples came back from the outside and saw Qin Feiyong standing here alone. They couldn't help but ask. Looking at the scenery, this was Qin Feiyong's answer. No matter who asked, this was the answer. Those disciples were a little speechless. What scenery was there to look at? But now, Qin Feiyong was also a famous figure in Empyrean Palace, and he even had Madman's protection, so no one dared to ask more. They greeted him, showed a little friendliness, and then left. Unknowingly, it was midnight. What's going on? It's been so long. Why hasn't he come back? Qin Feiyong gradually furrowed his brows. The spirit said worriedly, could he have encountered some danger? It's not dangerous. After all, this is Empyrean Palace. Who doesn't know the name of Madman? Touching him is tantamount to courting death. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Suddenly, he patted his head and smiled bitterly. I should have thought of it. Thought of what? The spirit said. With Madman's character, how could he come back just because we asked him to? He's not such an obedient person, and he's not stupid. Shangguan Fenglan is in such a hurry to find him, she will definitely be suspicious. Don't worry about it for now. Go back and cultivate. Qin Feiyong shook his head, turned around, and flew away. After returning to his cave residence, he directly entered the ancient castle to cultivate in seclusion. What's going on? Hui, who followed all the way, stood at the entrance of Qin Feiyong's cave residence with a dumbfounded face. He ran to the sky stairway, did nothing, and ran back. Was he bored? Chapter 21:17. The next day, early morning. As usual, Qin Feiyong entered the resource hall early in the morning to work. Junior brother Jiang, what have you been doing these 2 days? Did you ask for leave from the hall master? The one who spoke was a woman in white, called Wang Yun. She was about 1.8 meters tall, had a tall figure, and looked pretty good. When Qin Feiyong and the other two first entered the resource hall, it was this woman who was responsible for leading them. And she was the only woman in the resource hall. Moreover, Wang Yun's usual attitude towards people was also very good, so she was very popular with everyone. Leave. Qin Feiyong was organizing the accounts. Hearing Wang Yun's words, he couldn't help but raise his head and look at Wang Yun suspiciously. Don't you know? No matter where we go, the people of the resource hall have to ask for leave from the hall master in advance. Wang Yun said. This? Qin Feiyong was startled and shook his head. I really don't know. Wang Yun was startled and sighed. It's my fault. I didn't tell you in advance. Qin Feiyang frowned. This shouldn't be a big deal, right? This matter can be said to be small, but it can also be said to be big. It depends on whether the hall master will pursue this matter or not. I was also wondering why the hall master's expression was so ugly these 2 days. Now I finally understand. It's because you ran out with Madman without saying a word. Wang Yun shook her head and laughed. I'll pay attention next time. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. Yes. Wang Yun nodded. At this moment, 4 inner court disciples walked in together. One of them took out a medicinal herb and handed it to Wang Yun with both hands. He asked with anticipation, "Look at this medicinal herb. How many soul stones can it be exchanged for?" Wang Yun took the medicinal herb and looked at it carefully. This golden flower was the size of a palm. Every petal looked as if it was cast in gold, dazzling and dazzling. What was even more strange was that the stamen in the middle of the petals was arranged in a pattern that looked like a divine dragon. Qin Feiyang unintentionally glanced at the golden flower, but with just a glance, he was unable to shift his gaze away. It was actually the flower of the dragon god, one of the ingredients to refine the dragon soul primordial spirit pill. Wang Yun observed for a while and also recognized that it was the dragon god's flower. A trace of surprise crept into her bright eyes. She looked at the 4 disciples and smiled. Dragon god's flower, 100,000 soul stones. There are actually 100,000 of them. The 4 of them were wild with joy. Qin Feiyang put down the account book in his hand and walked to Wang Yun's side. Without batting an eyelid, he smiled and said, "Senior sister Wang Yun, can you let me take a look?" Wang Yun handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed it and looked at it curiously. After repeated confirmation, he confirmed that this was indeed the dragon god's flower. Immediately, his heart began to burn. This dragon god's flower could not enter the resource hall. This was because once they entered the resource hall, they would be kept in the resource hall's treasury. At that time, it would be very difficult to take it out. The 4 of you, I offer 400,000 soul stones for this dragon god's flower. If you are willing to sell it to me, then come find me at the cave tonight. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. The 4 of them were happy. Suddenly, they heard Qin Feiyang's voice in their minds, and their expressions couldn't help but be stunned. Qin Feiyang thought to himself, 400,000 soul stones and 100,000 soul stones. Which one is more worth it? I don't need to say it. You all should know. Clear, clear. Since senior brother Jiang wants it, then we will naturally sell it to senior brother Jiang. The man in the lead thought. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed and said, "All right, come find me at the cave tonight." "All right," the man replied, then coughed dryly and extended his hand. "I suddenly don't want to sell it. Please return the dragon god's flower to me." Wang Yun was startled and asked in confusion, "Why don't you want to sell it?" The man said, "If you don't want to sell it, then you don't want to sell it. Why do you have so many reasons?" "All right." Wang Yun sighed helplessly, reluctantly looked at the dragon god's flower, and then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Junior brother Jiang, return it to them." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded and handed the dragon god's flower to the man. After the man put away the dragon god's flower, he secretly said, "Senior brother Jiang, this matter is settled. We will look for you tonight." And Qin Feiyang secretly replied. The 4 of them looked at each other, then turned around and left quickly. What a pity. Wang Yun's face was filled with regret. It's indeed a pity, but there's nothing we can do about it. After all, our resource hall doesn't force people to buy or sell. Qin Feiyang laughed. Wang Yun nodded. You guys came really early. At this time, Mu Tianyang and Hua Yi walked side by side into the resource hall with smiles on their faces. It's not that we came early, it's that you guys came too late. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them and said indifferently. Mu Tianyang said, "There's a reason why we came late." "Yes." Hua Yi nodded. "What's the reason?" Qin Feiyang and Wang Yun looked at the 2 of them suspiciously. The other staff members who were busy also came over curiously. Mu Tianyang laughed. "Early in the morning, we received news that the Sky Dragon City is in chaos." Sky Dragon City is in chaos? Qin Feiyong and the others were surprised. Hua Yi smiled mysteriously. You guys will never guess why the Sky Dragon City is in chaos? Don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and say it. Wang Yun said angrily. Hua Yi chuckled and said, Madman? Madman? Everyone was stunned. Yes. I heard that he killed hundreds of people in one night. Hua Yi said. What? Kill so many people? What is he going to do? Everyone looked at each other. Mu Tianyang and I went to investigate. The people he killed were basically rotten people who like to be arrogant, despotic, and bully others. Mu Tianyang said, He really went to punish evil and promote good? Everyone was stunned. The news of Madman saying that he would eliminate evil for the people had already spread in the Nine Heaven Palace. But everyone thought that he was just joking. But they did not expect that he would really do it. Let me tell you guys, the people in Sky Dragon City are in a panic. Those arrogant people in the past, especially those playboys, are like mice, obediently hiding in their homes, not daring to go out, afraid that they would bump into Madman. Hui laughed. Actually, this is good. I understand those playboys in Sky Dragon City too well. Each of them is more arrogant than anyone else. They should have been extinguished long ago. Wang Yun snorted coldly. Mu Tianyang said suspiciously, Senior Sister Wang Yun, listening to your words, could it be that you are also from a family in Sky Dragon City? No, no, no. Wang Yun immediately waved her hand and laughed. How could I have such a family background? It's just that before I entered the Nine Heaven Palace, I worked in some restaurants in Sky Dragon City and saw many playboys. So that's how it is. Mu Tianyang suddenly understood. The places that playboys frequented were undoubtedly the big restaurants, so it was normal for Wang Yun, who had worked in a restaurant before, to understand. What are you all doing? Do you all have nothing to do? Suddenly, a stern voice sounded. Everyone's face changed as they hurriedly returned to their posts. Because the owner of the voice was Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan walked into the resource palace in large strides and looked at everyone gloomily. Everyone lowered their heads, busy with the things in their hands, not daring to look at Feng Yuan. Zhang Haoyin. Suddenly, Feng Yuan looked at Qin Feiyong. Palace Master. Qin Feiyong immediately stood up and looked at Feng Yuan. Not bad. How many days have you been in the resource palace? You actually dare to ignore my existence. Feng Yuan said angrily. Disciple doesn't dare. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and said, It seemed that this old thing was going to use this as a pretext to make a fuss. You call this not daring? I asked you to go to the treasure pavilion to bid for the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, but what about you? You actually left your post and fooled around with Madman? What do you think my resource palace is? You come and go as you please? Feng Yuan shouted. Palace Master, this matter is due to Disciple's lack of consideration, but Disciple had no choice. It was Madman who insisted on dragging Disciple there. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, He told you to go, so you went. Are you a dog by his side? So obedient. Feng Yuan said. Qin Feiyong's face turned cold and said, Palace Master, this matter is indeed Disciple's fault, but please don't hurt others. What a joke. As the Palace Master of the Resource Palace, don't tell me I don't have the right to teach you a lesson? Feng Yuan laughed angrily. Of course Palace Master has the right, but what am I going to do with Madman? I believe Palace Master also knows in his heart. Even if you don't know, you must be clear that this matter is related to Shangguan Fenglan. Qin Feiyong said, Presumptuous. Who do you think you are? How dare you use Shangguan Fenglan to suppress this old man? Feng Yuan was furious. Disciple didn't mean that. What I said was just the truth. If Palace Master insists on pursuing the matter, you can go to Shangguan Fenglan or the Great Elder, because this is also the Great Elder's order. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Hearing this, Feng Yuan's old eyes suddenly had a trace of surprise. It was actually related to the Great Elder? Seeing Feng Yuan's reaction, Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed slightly. It seemed that Feng Yuan didn't know about the matter between Long Tianyu and the Grey Castle. Wang Yun. Suddenly, Feng Yuan shouted, Lord Palace Master. Wang Yun's delicate body trembled, and she quickly ran to Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan immediately slapped Wang Yun's face fiercely. And? Qin Feiyang stared at Feng Yuan. Why did he hit Wang Yun? Wang Yun covered her burning cheeks with a puzzled look on her face. Mu Tianyang and the others were also suspicious. Feng Yuan looked at Wang Yun and said, "When Zhang Haoyan entered the resource palace, you were in charge of leading him, right?" Wang Yun nodded. Slap. Feng Yuan slapped Wang Yun's face again and said, "Then did you tell him that before leaving the resource palace, he had to ask for leave from me first?" Wang Yun shook her head. Slap. Feng Yuan slapped her again and said, "Then tell me, do you deserve to be punished?" Yes. Wang Yun nodded, not daring to resist at all. She didn't even dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. Seeing Wang Yun being beaten, Qin Feiyang's face became more and more gloomy. Feng Yuan was obviously venting his personal anger. With Shangguan Fenglan and the Great Elder, these two mountains, Feng Yuan didn't dare to do anything to him. But if he gave up like this, then he, as the palace master of the resource palace, would lose face, so he went to find Wang Yun. In other words, Wang Yun became his punching bag. Chapter 21:18. And Wang Yun was not Qin Feiyang. Facing the powerful Feng Yuan, she did not have the slightest courage to resist. She could only let Feng Yuan slap her face one after another. After more than a dozen slaps, Wang Yun's cheeks were already bleeding. The anger in Qin Feiyang's heart became more and more intense. "Qin Feiyang, don't be impulsive. Be careful, or he will reward you with a slap. With his current state, he will definitely not be merciful. At that time, you will definitely bleed." Mu Tianyang saw that the situation was not good and hurriedly transmitted his voice. "So what if I bleed? Do you want me to watch a woman get beaten for me? Then am I still a man?" Qin Feiyang secretly snorted and rushed forward like lightning, grabbing Feng Yuan's wrist. Zhang Haoyan. Everyone's expression changed, especially Wang Yun, who looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. She never thought that this man would stand up for her and offend Feng Yuan. Looking at Feng Yuan, she also had a look of disbelief. How dare he be presumptuous in front of him? The dignified resource hall master, with a high position and power, actually made things difficult for a disciple. "Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" Qin Feiyang sneered. A strand of dense flames of rage instantly appeared in Feng Yuan's eyes. This was clearly provoking him. "Zhang Haoyan, don't be rude. This is my fault to begin with. It is only right that I be punished. Leave now." Wang Yun's expression suddenly changed, and she hurriedly shouted. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and looked at Feng Yuan. "If there's anything, come at me. Don't make things difficult for unrelated people." "Good. Very good. Very good." Feng Yuan laughed out of extreme anger and said, "Just based on your actions of offending your superior, it's sufficient for you to die a graveless death." "Offend? I just said a few words of justice and it's called offending? Can't I speak the truth in Ninth Heaven Palace?" Qin Feiyang said. "What a sharp tongue. However, no matter how eloquent you are, you won't be able to escape punishment today. Now, I will punish you according to the law." Feng Yuan's eyes surged with killing intent. This is bad. Mu Tianyang felt a chill in his heart. Feng Yuan already had a murderous intent, and no one could persuade him otherwise. This guy was really stupid. Knowing that Feng Yuan had been looking for an opportunity to get rid of him, he still took the initiative to bump into him. According to law? But at this moment, a cold voice sounded. Then, a woman in a light purple dress slowly walked into the resource hall. It was Shangguan Fenglan. "Greetings, Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall." Everyone immediately bowed. Qin Feiyang also quickly released Feng Yuan's wrist and turned to salute Shangguan Fenglan. Feng Yuan raised his eyebrows. Why was it this woman again? Every time he wanted to attack Qin Feiyang, this woman would always jump out and interfere. "Hall Master Feng Yuan, law enforcement is the power of our law enforcement hall. It doesn't seem to have much to do with your resource hall, right?" Shangguan Fenglan glanced at Qin Feiyang and smiled at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan said, "Don't I have the right to punish the people of my resource hall who made a mistake? It depends on how you look at it. Privately, They are your subordinates. You do have the right to punish them. But publicly, as long as the disciples of Jotyin Palace, no matter where they are, no matter what mistakes they have made, they should be handed over to my law enforcement hall. Shangguan Fenglan said. Feng Yuan said angrily, Are you deliberately going against me? I wouldn't dare. I just have something to ask Jiang Haoyin, but I didn't expect to see this scene. Speaking of which, what exactly made Hall Master Feng Yuan so angry? Shangguan Fenglan looked curious. Feng Yuan's face was gloomy. Qin Feiyang said, Hall Master, this matter was caused by me. It has nothing to do with senior sister Wang Yun. Jiang Haoyin, shut up. If you say it, it will definitely make Hall Master Feng Yuan angrier. Wang Yun hurriedly transmitted her voice. Don't be afraid. We are disciples of Jotyin Palace, not his slaves. Why should we be bullied by him? Qin Feiyang snorted coldly, looked at Shangguan Fenglan, and said respectfully, Hall Master, this is what happened. The day before yesterday, I went out with senior brother Fengzi and didn't ask Hall Master Feng Yuan in advance, so he was very dissatisfied. But before that, I had taken the initiative to admit my mistake, but Hall Master Feng Yuan just didn't let it go. He even threatened to kill me. Qin Feiyang's face was full of grievance. So it's because of this. Shangguan Fenglan suddenly understood, turned to look at Feng Yuan and said, This is my idea. Feng Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang coldly, then looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, Jiang Haoyin is a member of my resource hall after all. You let him go out to do things, out of courtesy and respect. Shouldn't you tell me in advance? This is indeed my lack of consideration, but I can't help it. It was the great elder who urged me. I didn't think so much. I also thought that this was just a small matter, but I didn't expect Hall Master Feng Yuan to care so much. Shangguan Fenglan said. The meaning was obvious. If you are unhappy, go find the great elder. Don't use this as a pretext to make a fuss. And he even mocked Feng Yuan. It was such a small matter, yet he was still fussing over it. He was too narrow-minded. Good. Since it's the great elder's order, then I won't say anything more. But Wang Yun, she didn't fulfill her duty to teach the newcomers well, so she can no longer stay in the resource hall. Wang Yun, from now on, you are no longer a member of the resource hall. After handing over the work in your hands, you can leave on your own. After Feng Yuan finished speaking, he turned and walked to the second floor. Wang Yun's face was pale. She never thought that because of such a small mistake, she would be kicked out of the resource hall. Qin Feiyang just blamed himself. Although it was Frenzy who forced him to go to the far west, in the end, Wang Yun lost her job because of him. What a pitiful person. How about this? I happen to be short of people in the law enforcement department. After the handover, you can report to the law enforcement hall. But just when Qin Feiyang was thinking about how to make it up to Wang Yun, Shangguan Fenglan's voice suddenly sounded. What? Feng Yuan's body stiffened and turned his head to stare at Shangguan Fenglan angrily. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also raised his head and looked at Shangguan Fenglan in surprise. Wang Yun herself had a look of disbelief. Go to the law enforcement hall? One must know that entering the law enforcement hall was more difficult than entering the resource hall. As long as one was smart enough, one would have a chance to enter the resource hall. But the law enforcement hall, not only must one have a strong cultivation base, but also extraordinary courage and loyalty to the Nine Heavens Palace. After all, the people in the law enforcement hall had the power to kill the disciples. In short, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven to enter the law enforcement hall, and the treatment in the law enforcement hall was better than the resource hall. Therefore, the disciples of the Nine Heavens Palace were extremely afraid of the law enforcement hall, but they were also very eager to enter the law enforcement hall. Wang Yun had felt that she had lost hope in life, but she did not expect that immediately after, an even bigger pie would fall down. It made her feel like she was dreaming, unreal. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Senior Sister Wang Yun, why don't you quickly thank Hall Master Shangguan? Wang Yun quivered and hurriedly knelt down on one knee, solemnly saying, Thank you, Lord Hall Master. This disciple will be loyal to the death and will not disappoint Lord Hall Master's appreciation. Shangguan Fenglan smiled and said, You have to be loyal to the Nine Heavens Palace, not me? Yes. This disciple will remember. Wang Yun respectfully replied. Shangguan Fenglan said, Get up. Wang Yun got up. The joy on her face could not be concealed. However, there was one person at the scene whose face was extremely ugly. This person was Feng Yuan. After driving Wang Yun out of the resource hall, Shangguan Fenglan immediately took Wang Yun into the law enforcement hall. Wasn't this clearly refuting his face? Stinking woman, just you wait. He secretly snorted coldly, and with a stomach full of anger, he disappeared from the second floor without looking back. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Feng Yuan's back, then looked at Wang Yun and said, You can hand it over. Yes. Wang Yun nodded respectfully, turned to look at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Junior brother Jiang, let's go and hand it over, Shangguan Fenglan said. You go and hand it over to someone else. I have something to ask Jiang Haoyan. Ah, Wang Yun looked at Shangguan Fenglan in surprise. Mu Tuanyang sent a sound transmission. Brother Hua, this woman doesn't seem to have good eyesight. Indeed. Obviously, Shangguan Fenglan helped him because of Jiang Haoyan, but she didn't see through it, Hua secretly said. Wang Yun indeed didn't see through it at first, but when she heard Shangguan Fenglan's words and thought of how Shangguan Fenglan protected Qin Feiyang before, she immediately understood. She looked at Qin Feiyang gratefully, then turned and walked towards Hua Yi and Mu Tianyang. Jiang Haoyan, come out, Shangguan Fenglan said, then turned and walked out of the resource hall. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly and followed with large strides. He didn't need to think to know that Shangguan Fenglan came to find him because of Frenzy and Long Tianyu. Walking out of the resource hall, Qin Feiyang followed Shangguan Fenglan and flew to a nearby mountain peak with no one. Shangguan Fenglan said, You must have heard about what Frenzy did in Sky Dragon City. I've heard a little. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shangguan Fenglan said meaningfully, After receiving my message, he actually didn't bring Long Tianyu back. This shouldn't be simple. How would I know? Qin Feiyang was a little innocent. Keep pretending. Shangguan Fenglan looked at him playfully. I didn't. Qin Feiyang's face was full of helplessness. Shangguan Fenglan couldn't hold it in anymore and said angrily, Weren't you the one who told Frenzy not to bring Long Tianyu back? When did I inform him? Senior brother Frenzy and I didn't establish a contract bridge. Qin Feiyang said, You two have known each other for so long, and even went to the far west together. Do you think I will believe that you didn't establish a contract bridge? Shangguan Fenglan said angrily, I really didn't. Why don't you believe me? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. I can believe you if you want. But before evening, you must find Frenzy and Long Tianyu for me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Shangguan Fenglan sneered and flew away like lightning, disappearing from Qin Feiyang's sight. Chapter 21:19. Why am I so unlucky? Qin Feiyang stood alone at the peak of the mountain, wanting to cry but no tears came out. Everything could be related to him. Sigh. Where can I find him? Qin Feiyang sighed and flew towards the resource hall. To find Madman, he had to leave the Nine Heavens Palace. Therefore, he had to inform Feng Yuan in advance, lest he use it as a pretext to make a fuss. Returning to the resource hall, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be stunned. Everyone was there, but Mu Tianyang was nowhere to be seen. Qin Feiyang walked to Hua Yi's side. Hua Yi and Wang Yun were talking. Junior brother Jiang, thank you. But I really didn't expect your relationship with Hall Master Shangguan to be so good. Wang Yun smiled gratefully. I'm just a small disciple. What relationship can I have with her? She must have taken a fancy to your talent to let you enter the law enforcement hall. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wang Yun was also a smart person. She just smiled and didn't ask anymore. Qin Feiyang looked at Hua Yi and asked suspiciously, Where's Mu Tianyang? Hua Yi pointed to the second floor and said in a low voice, After you left, he was called up by Feng Yuan. Qin Feiyang looked at the second floor. Why was he in such a hurry to call Mu Tianyang up? You guys are busy. I'll go to the second floor too. Qin Feiyang said to the two of them and turned to walk to the second floor. Second floor? In the lounge. Feng Yuan sat beside the tea table, and Mu Tianyang stood respectfully opposite him. Feng Yuan asked, The day before yesterday, Madman took Zhang Haoyan away from the treasure pavilion. You were there, right? And Mu Tianyang nodded. Feng Yuan said, Then do you know where they went? What did they do? I don't know. I asked Madman at that time, but he didn't reveal anything, Mu Tianyang said. So mysterious? It's really strange. Feng Yuan frowned. Mu Tianyang suddenly said, Hall Master, didn't you ask the Great Elder? This old man never thought that this matter was related to the Great Elder. Since it has something to do with the Great Elder, this matter is definitely not ordinary. That little bastard Zhang Haoyan definitely won't tell me the truth. I'll have to rely on you for this matter. This old man will also find an opportunity to sound out the first elder's intentions, Feng Yuan said. Yes. Mu Tianyang nodded. Feng Yuan waved his hand and said, Leave. Mu Tianyang hesitated for a moment and said, Actually, there's something I want to discuss with you. What is it? Feng Yuan was doubtful. Mu Tianyang's gaze flickered slightly and he said, I want to make a trip to the Heavenly Dragon Sea. Why are we going to the Sky Dragon Sea? Feng Yuan was stunned and asked in surprise. Mu Tianyang moved closer to Feng Yuan's ear and whispered a few words. So that's how it is. Feng Yuan came to a realization when he heard that and said with a nod, All right, you arranged this matter well. This old man will also let Wen Hai and Jin Yunchang they all assist you. Many thanks for Hall Master's trust. This time, I'll definitely bury him in the Heavenly Dragon Sea. Mu Tianyang said with a cold smile. If you can really make him die in the Heavenly Dragon Sea, then you'll be this resource hall's next Hall Master, Feng Yuan said. Mu Tianyang was overjoyed and said with a bow, This subordinate definitely won't let down His Excellency Hall Master's expectations. Haha. Feng Yuan laughed loudly and waved his hand, saying, Go and get busy. This subordinate takes his leave. Mu Tianyang bowed and withdrew. After Mu Tianyang withdrew from the lounge, Feng Yuan immediately laughed coldly. Do you really think that this old man will let you be the next resource hall's hall master? Truly an out-and-out fool. When Zhang Haoyan dies, that will also be the date of your death. Outside in the corridor. When Mu Tianyang closed the door, he just happened to see Qin Feiyang coming upstairs. What are you running up for now? Mu Tianyang was taken aback and hurriedly walked over. Shangguan Fenglan asked me to find Frenzy and Long Tianyu. What can I do? I can only come and report first. You, on the other hand, why is Feng Yuan in such a hurry to find you? Qin Feiyang transmitted. Isn't it because he wants to know about you and Frenzy going to the far west land? But I didn't say anything. In addition, I have already obtained his consent. We can set off for the Heavenly Dragon Sea at any time. Mu Tianyang secretly said. He would agree so easily? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Do you understand my methods? Mu Tianyang waved his fist and smiled smugly, then walked straight past Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang's back view, a hint of light flickering in the depths of his eyes. Although he and Mu Tianyang were currently in a cooperative relationship, regardless of whether it was him or Mu Tianyang, they were actually well aware of it in their hearts. This kind of relationship could collapse at any time. Therefore, going to the Heavenly Dragon Sea not only had to be careful of Feng Yuan's plot, but also had to be wary of Mu Tianyang. Sigh. This scheming is really tiring. Qin Feiyang suddenly shook his head, turned back, walked to the door, and knocked lightly. Come in. Feng Yuan's voice came from inside. Qin Feiyang pushed open the door. Seeing that it was actually Qin Feiyang, Feng Yuan's face immediately turned gloomy and asked, What's the matter? Hall Master, Shangguan Fenglan asked me to find Madman. What do you think we should do? Qin Feiyang said awkwardly. What? She asked you to find Madman? Feng Yuan was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Is she sick? There are so many people in the law enforcement hall. Is there a need for you to go? Feng Yuan immediately became angry. I think so too. But she just wants me to go. She even said that if I don't find Madman before evening, I will bear the consequences. Hall Master, why don't you go and intercede for me? I still have a lot of work. How can I leave? Qin Feiyang said helplessly. You really don't want to go? Feng Yuan asked, sizing up Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, I really don't want to go. I'm very curious. Why are you so close to Madman and Shangguan Fenglan? Could it be that there is some kind of unknown relationship between you two? Feng Yuan asked. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said, I knew Hall Master would think so, but I can tell you responsibly that there really isn't. No? You're ignoring me. It doesn't matter. How can they take care of you like this? Feng Yuan sneered. This. Qin Feiyang hesitated and said, There's something I want to say. Don't be angry. Say it. Feng Yuan said. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and said, I think they might not like how you bullied me before. Feng Yuan suddenly slammed his palm on the tea table. Crack. The tea table shattered. Qin Feiyang's body trembled, and he hurriedly said, You said you can't be angry. Feng Yuan smiled coldly and said, After getting along with you for so long, I finally heard the truth from your mouth. How can I be angry? Qin Feiyang was terrified. Get lost. Feng Yuan shouted. Qin Feiyang asked cautiously, Then should I go or not? Shangguan Fenglan has spoken. How can I dare you not go? Get lost. Feng Yuan shouted angrily. Disciple will take his leave. Qin Feiyang said, then turned around and ran out in a hurry. Can't stand me bullying him? Humph. Shangguan Fenglan, lunatic. When did you become so kind? But no one who goes against me will have a good ending. Just like the son of the great elder. Feng Yuan sneered, and the killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. Qin Feiyang walked out of the resource hall and looked up at the sun in the sky. When he thought of Feng Yuan's expression, his mood was incomparably happy. Then he soared into the sky and flew toward the sky stairway. After leaving the Ninth Heaven Palace, he directly opened the portal and descended outside the North City Gate. So cruel. Yeah, but it's also very satisfying. The Zhang father and son are usually arrogant and domineering, and I've long been unhappy with them. Isn't that so? And that hedonistic son of the Li family, always acting like a tyrant. He should have been killed long ago. Lunatic really did a good thing this time. With this bloody lesson, let's see if they dare to bully honest people like us in the future. As soon as Qin Feiyang walked to the city gate, he heard countless people talking about Lunatic. Lunatic really made a name for himself this time. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. But suddenly, behind him, he felt a great sense of danger. Without hesitation, he directly entered the Black Tortoise world. Just as Qin Feiyang disappeared, a black arrow flashed with a shocking sharpness, cutting through the sky like lightning and entering the back of a burly man's head. This burly man was walking in front of Qin Feiyang. The moment Qin Feiyang disappeared, the burly man naturally became a ghost. Accompanied by a painful scream. The burly man died on the spot. What's going on? The sudden scene caused the crowd at the city gate to be in an uproar. Everyone scanned their surroundings in bewilderment. The 4 guards at the city gate were naturally alarmed. 2 of them immediately rushed over to observe the burly man's situation. This arrow pierced through his sea of consciousness and directly shattered his divine soul. And there's poison on the arrow. Who is it? Who dares to commit murder at the city gate of our Sky Dragon City? The 2 guards scanned the crowd around them. I don't know. We didn't see it either. Just now, we suddenly heard this person scream and then saw him fall to the ground. The few people standing in front opened their mouths. The perpetrator must be among you. From now on, without our orders, no one is allowed to leave. Seal the city gate. The 2 guards shouted. The 2 guards guarding the city gate immediately mobilized their divine power and sealed the city gate. Then, they soared into the sky and monitored everyone present. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also in the Black Tortoise realm, scanning the people on the plains. Only he knew that the perpetrator's target was not the burly man, but him. But he did not find the perpetrator. Everyone present looked very innocent. However, in such a short period of time, this person could not have escaped. He must still be here. But who wanted to kill him? Feng Yuan? Feng Yuan had suffered many losses, so he should not send people to assassinate him again. Moreover, Mu Tianyang had already mentioned to Feng Yuan that he wanted to go to the Sky Dragon Sea. So, even if Feng Yuan wanted to kill him, he would definitely wait until he went to the Sky Dragon Sea before taking action. But other than Feng Yuan, who else could it be? During his time in Sky Dragon City, it seemed that he had only offended Feng Yuan. Chapter 21:20. No, there seemed to be Guosweki. However, Guosweki was now following Mu Tianyang, so it was not possible to assassinate him. Besides, Guosweki certainly did not have the courage to do so now. It was a mess outside. The eyes of the 4 guards were filled with piercing cold light. Whoosh! Suddenly, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang. Its senior brother Jiang? Jiang Haoyin? Why is he here too? I seem to have seen him just now, but I didn't pay much attention to him. Wait a minute. Could he be the one who shot the man in the dark? It's impossible. Why is it impossible? He hid in the space divine object, assassinated the burly man, and then ran out without anyone knowing. The crowd immediately became restless. Hearing these discussions, the 4 guards looked at each other. One of the guards walked up to Qin Feiyang. With a respectful expression, he asked, "May I ask young Master Jiang, when did you arrive here?" Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and then at the guard. Obviously, the guard was also suspicious of him. This was funny. He was the real victim, but now he was the target of suspicion. No, it seemed that someone was deliberately fanning the flames. He glanced at the crowd again, his eyes flickering. Who just said that he might be the one who shot the man in the dark? If he was really fanning the flames, then the person who said this must be the murderer, because this person wanted to confuse the public and make the scene more chaotic. In this way, he could find a chance to escape. He still remembered the voice. It was very strange, but unfortunately, he did not pay attention to the person who spoke before. Now, if that person did not speak, it would be difficult to find him in the crowd. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was silent, the guard frowned and said, "Young Master Jiang, please answer my question." His suspicion of Qin Feiyang became more and more obvious. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and he said, "Actually, the arrow just now was aimed at me." What? It was aimed at him? That is to say, that burly man died unjustly? The crowd was bewildered and clamorous. The 4 guards also looked at each other. What was going on? Nonsense. You are a disciple of the 9 Heavens Palace. Who would dare to assassinate you? A discordant shout rang out once again. Qin Feiyang immediately looked towards the source of the voice. His eyes instantly locked onto a black-robed middle-aged man in the crowd. This person was about 40 years old. He was short and had an ordinary appearance. At first glance, it was hard to notice him. However, Qin Feiyang's eyes were shining. The reason for that was because that person's voice was exactly the same as the voice from before. This person had pointed the spearhead at him twice. It was obvious that they wanted to cause chaos. The person who would do such a thing was undoubtedly the culprit. What are you looking at? The middle-aged man was dissatisfied when he saw Qin Feiyang staring at him. Who are you? Why did you assassinate me? Qin Feiyang walked towards the middle-aged man. I'm assassinating you? The middle-aged man was stunned and said angrily, "Don't slander me." Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and said to himself, "In my memory, I don't seem to have seen you. You should be ordered to assassinate me. Who is this person? What nonsense are you talking about?" The middle-aged man shouted angrily, but he seemed to be a little flustered. What should we do? The 4 guards secretly communicated with each other. Zhang Haoyin doesn't look like he's joking. Maybe it's really that person. Whether it is or not, we can't let the suspect go. Quickly surround him. The 4 of them immediately performed teleportation and landed around the middle-aged man in an instant, surrounding him. What are you doing? He's slandering me. Do you really believe it? The middle-aged man saw this, and the panic in his eyes became more obvious. Do you know? Your acting skills are very bad. Not only are your acting skills bad, but your brain is also very stupid. If you didn't say anything, I definitely wouldn't have noticed you. But you thought you were smart and fanned the flames twice, trying to divert everyone's attention to me. This just happened to expose yourself. Qin Feiyang's face was full of ridicule. Nonsense, nonsense. Everyone, don't believe his nonsense. He's a thief pretending to be a thief. The middle-aged man roared in exasperation. Who's the thief pretending to be a thief? We'll know soon. I believe everyone has already received the news of what happened in Jotian Palace last night. Qin Feiyang laughed. What happened? Everyone was suspicious. Suddenly, someone in the crowd said in surprise, could it be the matter of killing Ryuko Yang? That's right. It's the matter of killing Ryuko Yang. Now many people know that I have a secret technique that can read other people's memories. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth, looked at the middle-aged man and sneered, do you dare to let me read your memories? The middle-aged man's panic was immediately exposed. Look, he's panicking. It's really him. There must be someone behind him. Otherwise, why would he dare to assassinate Zhang Haoyan? Catch him. Don't let him escape. Everyone roared. The four guards pounced on the middle-aged man at the first moment. Zhang Haoyan, you're really not easy to deal with. But with these ants, you want to keep me here? Dream on. Seeing this, the middle-aged man no longer concealed his ferocity. Boom! An aura suddenly erupted. He instantly attacked, and the four guards had no room to resist and died on the spot. What? So strong? This aura seems to be a great success, Divine Lord. Seeing this situation, everyone immediately retreated in horror. Qin Feiyang was also quite surprised. It was actually a great success, Divine Lord. In the future, you must always pay attention to what's behind you, because I will continue to find opportunities to assassinate you. The middle-aged man looked at Qin Feiyang with a sinister smile, and then used teleportation, rushing toward the mountain outside the plain like lightning. Continue to assassinate me? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, and a sneer appeared on his face. Using the walk formula, he quickly chased after him. What? Zhang Haoyan actually chased after him? He's crazy. His opponent is a great success, Divine Lord, and he's just a perfect realm war god. Not to mention whether he can catch up. Even if he does, he'll only be courting death. Everyone was discussing, and they were all in disbelief. This person's guts are too big, isn't it? Isn't Madman in the city? Let's quickly find him. Yes, let's find Madman. Zhang Haoyan is under Madman's protection. When he finds out about this, he'll definitely immediately go to rescue him. Although Madman can save Zhang Haoyan, it's not easy to find him. That's true. This person has changed his appearance since last night and is hiding in Sky Dragon City. Only after killing people will he reveal his identity and then continue to hide. Then what should we do? Zhang Haoyan is a good person. We can't just leave him to die. How about this? Although I don't know what Madman has changed his appearance to, he's definitely in Sky Dragon City now. Let's quickly spread the news. When Madman receives the news, he'll naturally immediately go to rescue Zhang Haoyan. Yes, everyone. Let's be quick. For a moment, the people outside the city took out their image crystals and spread the news. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100. Not long after, not only did the news spread throughout Sky Dragon City, but it also spread to Ninth Heaven Palace. What? He's being assassinated? Resource Hall. Mu Tianyang and Huai looked at each other. No matter where he went, there were people who wanted to kill him. Was this person born to be hated? Treasure Hall. Shang Guanxiu, who was sitting in the study, heard the news and suddenly stood up and shouted, Men! A guard ran in. Shang Guanxiu said in a deep voice, Immediately bring people to rescue Zhang Haoyan. Remember, he must not die. Yes. The guard responded respectfully. Then, with a flash, he disappeared without a trace. Sky Dragon City. On a certain street, an old man with mottled white hair walked shakily with a walking stick in his hand. His old eyes were cloudy, but if one looked closely, there was a shocking sharpness in those cloudy eyes. He scanned the people on the street like a hunter looking for prey. Beside him, there was a teenager who was wearing tattered clothes and had some dirt on his face. The teenager supported the old man and listened to the people's discussion. He whispered, Brother Crazy, are they talking about Brother Haoyan? Who else could it be other than this unlucky guy? The old man chuckled. The teenager was shocked and quickly asked, Aren't we going to save him? Save him? Kid, you're underestimating him. A mere large success divine lord is not a threat to him, the old man said and looked at a restaurant next to him. He laughed hoarsely and said, "Let's go in that restaurant and see if we can find prey. Now that everyone knows that we're hiding in Sky Dragon City, they shouldn't be able to find us." The teenager mumbled, "That's not necessarily true. What if there are a few people who aren't afraid of death?" The old man said with a smile. Outside North City, deep in the mountains, two figures, one in front and one behind, flew across the sky. It was Qin Feiyong and the middle-aged man. So fast, the middle-aged man turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. But then, a cold smile appeared on his face and he mumbled, "Have they caught up? Just what I want." He scanned the mountains and rivers in front of him and suddenly turned in the air and flew to the left. Behind, Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed slightly. He also changed his direction and continued to chase. Chapter 21:21. About half an hour passed. Even the two of them didn't know how far they had gone into the mountains. Finally, the middle-aged man stopped in the void. In the mountains below, there were countless beasts. Many of them were monarch god-level beasts, but the middle-aged man didn't care about them at all. He slowly turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong. And Qin Feiyong had also stopped. Their eyes met, and invisible sparks seemed to collide in the void. Qin Feiyong said, "Can you tell me now? Who sent you? When you go to hell, the king of hell will tell you." The middle-aged man smiled sinisterly. With a flash, he instantly landed in front of Qin Feiyong and slammed his palm toward Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong moved his feet and activated the Xing character art, calmly dodging. And he used a thunderous method. A wisp of blood-red light streaked across the sky and instantly arrived in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he quickly dodged to the side. Puff! The blood-red light was like a sharp arrow, sinking into the middle-aged man's left shoulder, and a bloody hole appeared. Blood spurted out like a fountain. "What is this? It can actually hurt me?" The middle-aged man lowered his head and looked at the bloody hole in his shoulder, his face full of disbelief. One had to know. He was a monarch god, and the other party was just a mere perfection war god. Even if he had a legendary-level deity art, he couldn't hurt him, because deity art was a barrier that couldn't break through to the next realm. In other words, even a beginner monarch god could easily kill a perfection war god. And now, instead, he was injured. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "Do you think I dare to chase after you without any ability? To tell you the truth, countless monarch god have died in my hands." These words were not false. A few days ago in the land of the far west, he had indeed killed many monarch god puppets. However, although he looked calm on the surface, he was actually very vigilant. Because puppets and living people were two completely different concepts. Puppets were controlled by people and didn't have thoughts. But living people not only had their own thoughts, but they could also use deity arts and activate their fighting soul. And they might even have a powerful deity weapon. So you are confident. But I have to admit, it's really amazing. But today, you will still die. The middle-aged man shouted. Divine power rolled out, and a barrier was formed, enveloping Qin Feiyong. Following closely, the middle-aged man formed a seal with both hands, and a palm-sized square seal appeared. The square seal was golden in color, and there was a white tiger engraved at the bottom. It exuded a powerful aura. "Let's see how you're going to hide now." Perfect deity technique, tiger taming seal. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, the taming tiger seal shot up into the sky and expanded in size. In an instant, it was like a towering mountain. Golden light shone in all directions, releasing an aura that could destroy the world. Kill. A murderous aura erupted from his body. He waved his hand, and the taming tiger seal came crashing down. Perfect deity formula. Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank. This was the difference between a living person and a puppet. For example, the person in front of him could pose a fatal threat to him just by relying on the cultivation of a large success divine lord and the perfect divine art. However, since he dared to come, he must have some confidence. Clang. murderous aura rolled out from his palm, accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. A blood-red sword appeared in the sky. He grabbed the blood-red sword and slashed at the air. However, his target was not the taming tiger seal. It was the barrier that trapped him. The middle-aged man had set up the barrier to prevent him from escaping. As long as the barrier was broken, it would not be difficult for him to dodge the taming tiger seal with the deity formula. Crack! The blood-red sword's radiance tore through the sky. There was no suspense. The barrier was shattered on the spot. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang used the deity formula and disappeared from the spot in an instant. Boom! The taming tiger seal came crashing down. The void was instantly destroyed, and the ground below collapsed and sank. What? It shattered my barrier so easily? The middle-aged man was tongue-tied again. The blood-red sword. The blood-red sword. What was that? How could it have such terrifying destructive power? Clang! Just as the middle-aged man was in a daze, a blood-red sword aura came from behind him. The middle-aged man shuddered and dodged to the side without hesitation. However, the speed of the sword aura was beyond his imagination. His left arm, which was already injured, was directly cut off as the sword energy fell. Ah! The heart-wrenching pain made the middle-aged man scream like a pig being slaughtered. If you have the ability, don't hide. Fight me head-on. The middle-aged man turned around and glared at Qin Feiyang, who was standing in the air opposite him. Your cultivation is so much higher than mine, and you still want me to fight you head-on? Is there something wrong with your brain? Qin Feiyang sneered. The middle-aged man was burning with anger. That's right. His cultivation was a few levels higher than his opponent's. Moreover, there was the huge gap between the god of war and the divine lord. However, in these few rounds, he was the one who was injured. What about his opponent? He was unharmed. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to endure such humiliation. Boom! The middle-aged man's body trembled. An even more terrifying aura broke out from his body. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. This person was not a great success, Divine Lord. Yes, this is my true strength, great perfection, Divine Lord. The middle-aged man grinned again and again, his aura fully released. This level of aura, Qin Feiyang was not unfamiliar at all. This was a great perfection, Divine Lord. Do you know why I hid my cultivation? It's because I want to lure you here so that I can kill you without anyone knowing. The middle-aged man laughed. Who the hell are you? Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Haha, it hasn't been long since the last time we met. Have you forgotten me? The middle-aged man took out a facial restoration pill. Qin Feiyang looked at the facial restoration pill and then looked at the middle-aged man. It hasn't been long since the last time we met? Let me give you a hint. Martial arts treasury. The middle-aged man said. Martial arts treasury. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled and said in surprise, You are Nye Kong. The middle-aged man smiled without saying a word and took the facial restoration pill in his hand. Very soon, a familiar face appeared in Qin Feiyang's line of sight. Who else could it be but Nye Kong? I see. You were afraid of arousing the lunatic's dissatisfaction, so you changed your appearance and came to assassinate me? After the assassination failed, you hid your cultivation and lured me here. In order to kill me, you really used all kinds of tricks, Qin Feiyang said. That's right. When I tried to assassinate you, I thought I could succeed, but I didn't expect you to be so vigilant. You even managed to dig him out. However, I was unwilling, so I came up with this idea at the last minute, because I expected that with your conceit and arrogance, you would definitely come after me. Sure enough, you came after me. Do you still remember what I said back then? I will definitely avenge my brother, my father, my grandfather, and my family, and today is the day you die. Nye Kong's face was full of resentment and once again evolved the perfect divine art, tiger taming seal. Without hiding his cultivation, the power of the tiger taming seal reached its peak state. Feeling the aura of the tiger taming seal, at this moment, Qin Feiyang's heart did not have any luck. He was afraid that even the blood-colored long sword could not match it. Because Nye Kong's cultivation was one realm higher than his, he could only activate the slaughter zone. But now, It was too late to activate the slaughter zone. After all, there was no ready-made blood. Moreover, as early as the beginning of his fight with Nye Kong, the beasts in the mountains below had already fled upon hearing the news. In other words, at this moment, within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles, there was only him and Nye Kong. Are you afraid? Are you desperate? This is what you deserve. Nye Kong laughed. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, I have already said that your father and the rest were not killed by me. Besides you, who else could it be? Actually, after the bet with you last time, I also thought about it carefully. With your cultivation, it should be impossible to kill my Nye family. Because of this, I hesitated for a long time. However, just earlier, when I saw that trace of crimson light and the long sword in your hand, I finally understood that you do have the ability to do so. So, the executioner who slaughtered my Nye family is definitely you. Go and be buried with them. Nye Kong roared. The tiger-taming seal descended from the sky, carrying the power to destroy the world. It shattered the sky for hundreds of thousands of miles and headed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. He hurriedly used the walk formula and quickly dodged. The tiger-taming seal blasted into the ground below. The air billowed. In an instant, everything within the range visible to the naked eye was razed to the ground. Qin Feiyang's back was drenched in cold sweat. If he did not dodge, then he would definitely be a corpse now. No, I'm afraid that not even a corpse would be left. You think you are the only one who has mastered the auxiliary divine technique? Without waiting for Qin Feiyang to recover, Nye Kong's angry roar sounded again. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly looked over. He saw Nye Kong using a strange and unpredictable footwork, rushing towards him. Compared to his previous speed, it was on a completely different level. Perfect auxiliary divine technique, go steps. Nye Kong laughed sinisterly. It could be said that his current speed was even faster than Qin Feiyang's walk formula. It was not to say that Qin Feiyang's walk formula was inferior to Nye Kong's go steps. It was because Nye Kong's cultivation was too much higher than Qin Feiyang's. How could Qin Feiyang compare with the cultivation of a consummate Sir God and the perfect auxiliary divine technique? This time, he also truly experienced the difference between a puppet and a living person. They were completely incomparable. Chapter 21-22. He could kill puppets in seconds as if he was cutting vegetables. But for a living person, unless it was an unexpected assassination, he had no chance of winning. In the blink of an eye, die. Nye Kong laughed sinisterly. The tiger-taming seal appeared again and blasted toward Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. He held the blood-colored sword in his hand and attacked. He definitely could not avoid it. As Nye Kong's speed was faster than his, he could only give it his all. As for the ancient castle and the Black Tortoise realm, he did not intend to enter them. If he did not get rid of a powerful enemy like Nye Kong as soon as possible, there would be endless trouble in the future. Therefore, no matter what, he had to kill this person today. Even if the purple gold dragon blood was exposed, he would not hesitate. Clang, clang, accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. The blood-colored sky and the tiger-taming seal met. True enough, the blood-colored sword shattered instantly. As for the tiger-taming seal, there was only a crack, and this crack was difficult to see with the naked eye. This was a completely overwhelming situation. The tiger-taming seal was full of murderous intent as it charged toward Qin Feiyang. In the nick of time, Qin Feiyang quickly activated the battle word manual. Once the blood-colored armor appeared, the tiger-taming seal blasted onto Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Like a meteorite, he smashed into the ground below. As for the armor formed by the battle word manual, it shattered into pieces. Too powerful. This is the strength of a perfected Sir God? Compared to this, the puppets are too weak. Qin Feiyang muttered. Not only was the armor shattered, but his entire chest was also caved in. His bones were broken and his flesh was badly mangled. Even his internal organs were fatally injured. It turns out that without lunatic's protection, you are just a piece of trash. Kong's face was full of disdain. But suddenly, he noticed the blood that Qin Feiyong spat out and his eyes widened. What was going on? Why was the blood purple gold? He went forward in shock and took a closer look. His body trembled. It actually had a dragon's aura. This is the legendary purple gold dragon blood. Kong's face was filled with disbelief. How could there be purple gold dragon blood flowing in this person's body? It was passed down from generation to generation. 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, there was also a human with purple golden dragon blood flowing through his veins. This person was the monstrous genius who was famous in the northern region at that time, but then disappeared. Until now, he was almost forgotten by people. Qin Batian? Kong looked up at Qin Feiyong, who was slowly standing up, and asked in surprise, "What is your relationship with Qin Batian?" "He is my ancestor." Qin Feiyong grinned. "Your ancestor?" Kong was extremely surprised. "It seems that my ancestor was quite famous in the northern region back then. No matter who it is, they all know of his existence." Qin Feiyong said. Although the name Qin Batian has disappeared for thousands of years, many people still remember it, especially those from our Nine Heavens Palace. But it's really surprising that you're actually his descendant, but you still can't avoid death. Fighting soul. Open? Kong laughed sinisterly. With a low roar, a golden domain appeared out of nowhere. As soon as the domain appeared, it was infinitely enlarged and enveloped Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong suddenly felt an invisible force pressing down on him. His cultivation instantly dropped by a small realm. Qin Feiyong was shocked. "This is my body talent. It can deprive the opponent of a small realm of cultivation. Now that your cultivation has dropped to perfect war god, you have no chance of winning. Obediently accept your death, so that you won't suffer any physical pain. But in the end, I'll let you see my true strength." Kong laughed arrogantly. He placed his hands in front of his chest and quickly formed seals. First, a golden square seal appeared. It was the tiger seal. Immediately after, another golden square seal appeared. At the bottom, there was a living golden dragon. Tiger seal, dragon seal. These two deity skills are my strongest techniques. It's your honor to die under these two deity skills. Now, you can go to hell, Kong said proudly. Then, killing intent burst out from his eyes. The two divine seals cut through the sky like two mountains, one in front and one behind, attacking Qin Feiyong. That terrifying oppressive force caused Qin Feiyong to practically be unable to breathe. Sigh. However, there was a trace of regret on his face. He sighed. "I never thought of killing you. If you didn't take the initiative to provoke me, I would have even forgotten about your existence." "Why? Are you trying to gain sympathy?" Kong sneered. "Sympathy? I'm not trying to gain your sympathy. I'm sympathizing with you. Isn't it good to be alive? Do you have to court death?" Qin Feiyong said. "Haha. At this point, you still dare to be so arrogant. You're really stupid." Kong laughed again and again. His face was full of contempt. Sigh. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. He muttered, "Although I don't want to rely on you, there's no other way. Please make your move." Shua. As Qin Feiyong's voice fell, a gray figure swept out from his body. It was the spirit of the gray castle. Kong looked at the spirit in surprise. Because the moment the artifact spirit appeared, he felt a great sense of danger. The spirit still couldn't see its face, but the disdain for Kong. Whether it was Qin Feiyong or Kong himself, they could clearly feel it. The spirit raised its hand and pointed in the air. Boom! A force of death suddenly roared out. Kacha! The tiger subduing seal and dragon subduing seal shattered in an instant. What? Kong was dumbfounded. When he came back to his senses, he quickly turned around and fled. His previous arrogance was gone, and his face was full of fear. His perfect divine technique was shattered so easily. How strong was this person? Qin Feiyong shouted, "Don't let him escape." Kong already knew his true identity. Once Kong escaped, he would definitely report it to the higher-ups of Ninth Heaven Palace. If I can't even keep such a small character, Then what qualifications do I have to accompany you to the Sky Dragon Sea to find Qin Batian and Lu Jingyang? The spirit sneered. The force of death suddenly turned into waves, sweeping across the sky and quickly drowning Nyekong. My life force, my divine soul. Damn it, what the hell is this? I can't accept this. Nyekong roared angrily. His body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, and in 3 breaths, his life force completely disappeared. Only skin and bones remained of his physical body as he fell to the ground. This kind of trash doesn't even have the qualifications to be my puppet, the spirit said disdainfully. With a wave of its arm, the force of death retreated back into its body like a tide. Qin Feiyang swallowed a divine life pill and looked at the spirit with a smile. Strong enough? Of course. The spirit smiled proudly, then asked in confusion, "Why didn't you activate the slaughter domain just now?" "I wanted to. But you also saw that there is not a single murderer nearby," Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Anyway, no matter what, he must not let the spirit know that the slaughter domain had a time limit. Although your slaughter domain is heaven-defying, its drawbacks are obvious. In a battle of life and death, the opponent will not give you the chance to absorb blood, the spirit said. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Under normal circumstances, I will not activate the slaughter domain. Indeed, it is a little too bloody. All right, the matter has been settled. I will leave first. After saying that, the spirit returned to Qin Feiyang's Qi Si. Phew. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath. The people of the Nye family were finally all eliminated, and there was one less threat in the future. He stepped forward and landed in front of Nyekong's body. He took Nyekong's yin and yang ring, and a smile appeared on his face. This Nyekong's family was really rich. There were all kinds of elixirs. For example, there were hundreds of divine life pills. There were at least billions of divine gems, and more than 100 million soul stones. A large part of the 100 million soul stones should be what he gave to Nyekong. At that time, he used 100 million soul stones to exchange for the soul-gathering divine technique with Nyekong. Originally, Nyekong could have enjoyed the 100 million soul stones, but unfortunately, because of his stupidity, it was now back in Qin Feiyang's hands. Sure enough, it's like the old saying, "It's you who can't run away, not you who can't force it." Qin Feiyang gladly put away the yin and yang ring, and then immersed his mind into Nyekong's body. This Nyekong must have a divine artifact. In the end, he really found a divine artifact in Nyekong's Qi Si, but it was only a high-grade divine artifact. No wonder Nyekong did not take it out before. After all, a high-grade divine artifact was not very helpful to a perfect Sir God. Qin Feiyang was too lazy to take it, and casually threw it into the yin and yang ring. Be a good person in your next life. Looking at Nyekong's body, Qin Feiyang muttered. With a wave of his hand, the soil rolled and buried Nyekong's body. He then entered the black tortoise world, washed the bloodstains on his body, changed into a clean set of clothes, and flew back to Sky Dragon City. Do you think that Madman went to save Jiang Haoyin? Although I didn't see Madman, with his relationship with Jiang Haoyin, he should have gone. Moreover, now that this matter has spread to Nine Heavens Palace, the upper echelons of Nine Heavens Palace will definitely not sit back and do nothing. That might not be the case. Don't you know how Nine Heavens Palace works? Once a disciple leaves Nine Heavens Palace, no matter what difficulties they encounter, they will not help. This Jiang Haoyin is a good person. It would be a pity if he died like this. Yes. Back then, when Feng Wenhai framed him, he was still able to let bygones be bygones and forgive Feng Wenhai. It can be seen how kind he is. I just don't understand. Such a kind child. Why are there so many people who want to harm him? You don't know? A kind person will be bullied. Outside the North City Gate, at this moment, there was a sea of people. Everyone looked at the mountain in front of them and discussed. Time passed little by little. Suddenly, a white figure flew out from the mountain and gradually appeared in front of everyone. That is Jiang Haoyin. He's not dead. Wait, why don't I see Madman? Did he not go? If Madman didn't go, then how did he escape back? Everyone quickly went up to greet him. Qin Feiyang looked at the vast and mighty crowd with a stunned expression. He was too popular now. Chapter 21-23. When did he receive such treatment in the great Qin Empire and Forgotten Continent? He was either scolded or hunted down. Of course, he had to thank the Feng family. It was the Feng family that made him who he was today. During this period of fighting with the Feng family, not only did he gain enough benefits, but he also gained a good reputation. It could be said that he gained both fame and fortune. Qin Feiyang flew over and said shamefully, "What did I do to deserve everyone's concern?" "Child, don't say that. We know that you are a good person. Some people just can't bear to see others doing well, so they always play tricks behind their backs. Don't worry. No matter what happens, we will support you from behind." Everyone laughed. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang bowed deeply to everyone. "You're welcome. Actually, we can't help you much. We can only support you mentally." Back to the topic. How did you escape back? Everyone was curious. Escape back? Qin Feiyang was stunned. After thinking carefully, he suddenly understood. Indeed, Niekong's cultivation was much higher than his. It was normal for him to think that he escaped back. That person's speed was too fast. I lost him after chasing him out of the plains. Thinking about it, I really overestimated myself. I actually chased after a great perfection divine lord. Even if I could catch up with him, I was not his match. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. A perfect divine lord died in the hands of a perfect divine lord. If this matter were to spread out, how shocking would it be? Therefore, he still had to hide it. So that's how it is. You were indeed a little too impulsive at that time. Don't do this again in the future. Fortunately, that person had some reservations. Otherwise, you would definitely be in trouble this time. Everyone advised. I will remember. Thank you again for your concern. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. All right then, let's disperse. It's a pity that those 4 guards died too innocently. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. Guards. Qin Feiyang looked down and soon saw the corpses of the 4 guards outside the city gate. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang flickered and landed in front of the 4 corpses. He fell silent for a moment. Don't blame yourself. This is not your fault. The fault lies with the perpetrator. Sooner or later, he will suffer retribution. A few people beside him consoled him. Qin Feiyang sighed. He turned to look at the crowd and asked, "Do any of you know their families?" Everyone shook their heads. I know him. Also, I've already informed their families. They should be here soon. A black-clothed man said. Qin Feiyang looked at the black-clothed man and nodded. Fu Yong. Not long after, a sorrowful cry rang out from within the city. Following closely, a group of people rushed out of the city gate. There were women, children, and the elderly. Everyone's face was filled with grief. A group of people rushed out of the city gate and headed straight here. Qin Feiyang and the others stepped aside. They are the family of these 4 people. They are old and young at home. How pitiful. The black-clothed man sighed. The others also had sympathetic looks on their faces. Fu Yong, why are you sleeping? Get up. Don't leave me and the children behind. What will we do in the future? Who the hell is it? How could he be so cruel? A few women lay on the bodies of the 4 guards, crying to the heavens and the earth, becoming a person of tears. The elderly and children next to them were also crying silently. Qin Feiyang looked at the group of people and couldn't help but sigh. He transmitted his voice, Old Zhao, prepare 4 Chinkuan bags for me. Each Chinkuan bag contains 10 million soul stones. Understood. Zhao Tailai replied. Soon, Zhao Tailai did it. Qin Feiyang walked forward, looked at the 4 women and said, 4 sisters-in-law, please restrain your grief. Jiang Haoyin? The 4 women looked up at Qin Feiyang. They hadn't noticed him before. When the children saw Qin Feiyang, besides sadness, there was also a trace of worship in their eyes. This matter happened because of me. I really don't know how to make it up to you. There are 10 million soul stones in each of these 4 Chinkuan bags. Take it as my apology to you. If you need any help in the future, you can come to the 9 Heavens Palace to find me. As long as it's within my ability, I won't refuse. Qin Feiyang said as he took out the 4 Chinquin bags and stuffed them into the hands of the 4 women. What? 10 million soul stones? The 4 women were all dumbfounded. The family members beside them also had looks of disbelief. 10 million soul stones was nothing to Qin Feiyang, but for such an ordinary family, it was a huge sum of money. They probably wouldn't be able to earn so much in their lifetime. The people around were all dumbfounded. 10 million in one go. The 4 families added up to a total of 40 million. Wasn't this a little too generous? My condolences. Qin Feiyang smiled at the 4 women and turned to enter the city. Young Master Jiang, this is too much. We can't take it. The 4 women came back to their senses and hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang's back. Qin Feiyang didn't respond and disappeared into the crowd without looking back. The 4 women looked at each other, completely at a loss for what to do. This is Jiang Haoyin's goodwill. Just accept it. Moreover, you all have children. These soul stones can be left to your children. That's right. With these soul stones, your children will definitely become outstanding in the future. The people around them laughed. The 4 women looked at each other, looked at the city gratefully, and finally put away the Chinquin bags. Actually, soul stones aren't much. What? 10 million soul stones aren't much? Are you dreaming? Of course not. Actually, the most important thing is Jiang Haoyin's final promise. Jiang Haoyin said that if these 4 families need help in the future, they can go to the Empyrean Palace to find him. Do you think that such a promise is not worth 10 million soul stones? That makes sense. This is Jiang Haoyin's promise. Not to mention 10 million soul stones. Even 100 million soul stones might not be worth it. This Jiang Haoyin is really a good person. I really admire him. In the future, if anyone dares to plot against him, they will be going against us.
Yes.
We must protect such a good person. The people exclaimed. Qin Feiyang's actions this time won the hearts of the people. When the news spread, countless people praised him. The treasure pavilion. In a study, Shang Guanqiu looked at Qin Feiyang standing outside the door with a surprised expression and said, "What wind blew today? Why did it blow you here?" Qin Feiyang entered the VIP room and said with a smile, "I didn't expect Miss Shangguan to like to joke." "Ha!" Shang Guanqiu laughed dryly and pointed to the tea table beside him. He said with a smile, "Please take a seat." Qin Feiyang did not stand on ceremony. He walked over and sat on the chair. "You don't come here without a reason. What do you need? Tell me." As Shang Guanqiu spoke, he took out a can of tea leaves from the cabinet beside him. When Shang Guanqiu opened the lid, a whiff of fragrance immediately rushed to his nose. This is... Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. The fragrance of the tea leaves was exactly the same as the tea leaves that the deputy pavilion leader had given him. "The deputy pavilion leader gave this to me some time ago. He said that you like tea, so he told me that whenever you come to the treasure pavilion, I must serve you with this tea. Others don't get such treatment," Shang Guanqiu said with a smile. "Then shouldn't I feel honored?" Qin Feiyang said. "Of course. The deputy pavilion leader's tea leaves are priceless. Even the 10 elders of the Empyrean Palace don't have a chance to taste it." Shang Guanqiu said with a proud smile. "I'm really flattered," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. At this moment, a guard ran in hurriedly. When he saw Qin Feiyang, he was stunned. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang looked at the guard suspiciously. The guard came back to his senses and waved his hand with a smile. "Nothing. Nothing. Steward, since young Master Jiang has escaped safely, I'll take my leave." "Okay." Shang Guanqiu nodded. The guard turned and left, closing the door behind him. Qin Feiyang looked at Shang Guanqiu in confusion and asked, "Steward, what's going on? I heard that you were attacked not long ago. I was a little worried, so I asked him to bring some people to see if he could help you." "Apparently, my worries were unnecessary," Shang Guanqiu said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He did not expect Shang Guanqiu to care about him so much. "Don't get me wrong. I care about you because you're now the treasure school's patron," Shang Guanqiu said. "Haha." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Even if that's the case, I can still brag about it for a while." Shang Guanqiu rolled his eyes and said, "Tell me, what's the matter?" "I want to find Lunatic." Help me, Qin Feiyang said. Find lunatic? Shang Guanqiu was stunned and frowned. Aren't you close to him? Why do you need my help? It's a long story. Anyway, I have to find him before dark. You have many spies in the treasure school. Help me. Qin Feiyang said. Shang Guanqiu looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and nodded. Okay, men. The guard pushed the door open and entered again. Shang Guanqiu said, Bring some people to find lunatic. Yes. The guard answered respectfully and turned to leave quickly. Shang Guanqiu looked away and asked Qin Feiyang, Is there anything else? Yes. You haven't replied to me about the divine dragon soul, the ultimate spirit lotus, and the dragon god's flower last time? Qin Feiyang said. I've asked my master and the deputy pavilion leader about this, but they haven't given me any orders yet, so I can't make a decision on my own. Shang Guanqiu said apologetically. Qin Feiyang was a little depressed. He said, Is it really that difficult? The dragon god's flower and the ultimate spirit lotus are small matters. I can give them to you now. But the dragon's soul, to be honest, is not a child's play. Shang Guanqiu sighed. Chapter 21-24. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Although the divine dragon was indeed noble and rare, it was nothing to the treasure pavilion. Shang Guanqiu fell silent. Qin Feiyang observed for a while and asked, Is there anything you can't tell us? Sigh. Shang Guanqiu sighed and shook his head. It's not anything I can't tell you. It's just that many people don't know about the dragons. Dragons? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes, dragons. That's a super terrifying existence. Even the treasure pavilion can't afford to offend them, Shang Guanqiu said. Dragons. Qin Feiyang frowned. This was the first time he had heard of this term. It's really inconvenient for me to reveal anything about the dragons. Moreover, I don't know much about them. If there's a chance, you can ask the deputy pavilion master, Shang Guanqiu said. Qin Feiyang asked, Does anyone in the Ninth Heaven Palace know about this so-called dragons? Of course. For example, my sister, Feng Yuan, the 10 great elders, the palace master, and the deputy palace master know about them, but you'd better not ask around because the dragons are also a taboo. Shang Guanqiu said in a low voice. Taboo. Qin Feiyang was shocked. It seemed that the dragons were extraordinarily terrifying. Otherwise, the treasure pavilion and the Ninth Heaven Palace would not be so wary of them. Shang Guanqiu pondered for a while and suddenly said, Actually, there are dragon souls. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Shang Guanqiu looked at Qin Feiyang and said, The treasure pavilion has ready-made dragon souls. Ready-made dragon souls? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. After all, the treasure pavilion has been around for a long time. Although we haven't hunted divine dragons, many people have brought dragon souls to trade with us. And we've bought all these dragon souls. They're now kept in the treasure pavilion. Shang Guanqiu said. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, Since there are ready-made ones, then there is no need to hunt anymore. What are you afraid of? Because you are using the dragon soul to refine pills. This kind of offensive behavior will anger the dragons. Once they receive the news, not only will it bring you trouble, even our treasure pavilion will be implicated. Shang Guanqiu said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shang Guanqiu thought for a moment and asked, Should I ask the deputy pavilion master again? All right, Qin Feiyang said. Shang Guanqiu took out the image crystal. Very soon, a white-haired old man appeared. The old man sat on a chair with a walking stick beside him. There was a kind smile on his aged face. Greetings, Vice Pavilion Master. Greetings, Senior. Qin Feiyang and Shang Guanqiu stood up and bowed at the same time. Little friend, you're here too. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Qin Feiyang said respectfully, Senior, please forgive us for disturbing your cultivation. It's okay. The Vice Pavilion Master waved his hand and said with a smile, You asked Little Chiu to send a message to me. It must be about the dragon soul, right? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Vice Pavilion Master fell silent. Qin Feiyang said, If this matter really makes things difficult for you, Just pretend that I didn't say anything." The vice pavilion master laughed hoarsely and said, "This matter is indeed a little difficult, but I really can't bear to refuse your request." Qin Feiyong was delighted. The vice pavilion master said, "But I have a request." "Please say it," Qin Feiyong said. The vice pavilion master said, "You must not mention the fact that you used the dragon soul to refine pills to outsiders. Even if you die, you must keep it to yourself." "No problem. I can guarantee it." Qin Feiyong nodded without hesitation. In fact, even if the vice pavilion master did not say anything, he would not take out the dragon soul primordial spirit pill. That was because this kind of pill was too shocking. Once it was exposed, there would be endless trouble. The vice pavilion master said with a smile, "I still believe in your promise. Little Chiu, you can make the deal with him?" "Yes," Shangguan Chiu replied respectfully. The vice pavilion master looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Then let's have tea together when we have time." "Okay," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. The vice pavilion master's shadow disappeared. Shangguan Chiu put away the image crystal and looked at Qin Feiyong. "Is there something on my face?" Qin Feiyong was puzzled. "I'm just puzzled. Did you drug the vice pavilion master? He actually helped you so much?" Shangguan Chiu frowned. "Haha, this is charm," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "Shameless." Shangguan Chiu rolled his eyes and said, "Since the vice pavilion master has spoken, then let's talk." "There's no need to talk. You can name the price. I only have one request, the more the better," Qin Feiyong said. "Do you think dragon souls are cabbages that can be picked up from the ground?" Shangguan Chiu was speechless. 10 million, 10 million. This Zhang Haoyan is really generous. Jiutian Palace, outer sect. Inside a cave, Gao Xiaolong was amazed. Next to him, Gao Shui said with a smile, "Big brother Jiang is a very generous person. Otherwise he would not have helped us." Gao Xiaolong looked at Gao Xiaowei and found that there was an inexplicable emotion in her eyes. He said, "Xiaowei, are you interested in Zhang Haoyan?" Gao Xiaowei was stunned and said, "Brother, what are you talking about?" "Girl, I've watched you grow up. Do you think you can hide your thoughts from me?" Gao Xiaolong said, "I'm not." Gao Xiaowei lowered her head and couldn't help but blush. "If you're not, why are you blushing?" But thinking about it, a capable person like Zhang Haoyan is indeed very attractive to girls like you. Gao Xiaolong laughed. Gao Xiaowei's face turned even redder. Especially the way Gao Xiaolong looked at her made her feel uncomfortable. "Looks like my little girl is really in love." Gao Xiaolong laughed. "Brother." Gao Xiaowei looked at Gao Xiaolong coquettishly. Okay. I'm not joking. But there's something I have to say to you. You have the right to like Zhang Haoyan. I can't do anything about it. But I want to say, don't have too much hope. Because Zhang Haoyan is not from the same world as us. His future achievements are something we can never reach. Do you understand? Gao Xiaolong said. "I know." Gao Xiaowei nodded, and a trace of disappointment appeared on her face. "It's good that you know." Gao Xiaolong nodded and comforted her. "Of course, this kind of thing depends on fate. If you and him are fated, then no matter how big the gap between you two is, you can still walk together. In any case, let nature take its course." Gao Xiaowei pouted. "That's right. Let nature take its course, don't force it," Gao Xiaolong said. And Gao Xiaowei nodded. Time flew by. In the afternoon, Qin Feiyong followed behind the guard and quickly walked out of the treasure pavilion. His face was full of smiles as if he was bathing in the spring breeze. The guard asked curiously, "Young Master Jiang, what did you talk about with the steward that made you so happy?" "It's a secret." Qin Feiyong smiled mysteriously. "Where's Frenzy?" "He's in a restaurant, disguised as an old man. Our people have been keeping an eye on him." The guard said, "Good. Activate the altar immediately," Qin Feiyong said. "Activate the altar?" The guard was stunned, shaking his head. "There's no need for that, it's very close." Qin Feiyong laughed. "With Frenzy's ability, your treasure pavilion's people won't be able to keep an eye on him, so we need to race against time." "That's true." The guard nodded. "Activating a transmission altar, since it's a direct transmission, there's no need for me to lead the way. I won't cause trouble for you. Okay, thank you. Qin Feiyang stepped onto the altar. The guard smiled. You're too polite. Young Master Jiang, take care. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang disappeared. Just as the rumors say, he's humble and easygoing. It's hard to find someone like him in this world. No wonder even the steward was so polite to him. The guard shook his head and returned to the treasure pavilion. East City District. Inside a small restaurant. For young men and women were lying on the ground with a bloody hole between their brows, fresh blood flowing out. On the side, a white-haired old man and a young man stood side by side. There were many people inside and outside the restaurant, looking at the old man and the young man. Their faces were full of awe. The white-haired old man looked at the four young men and women and asked the young man beside him, "Kid, are you used to it?" "I'm used to it." The young man nodded, looking at the blood on the ground without the slightest fear. "You got used to it so quickly. It seems that you're really a promising kid. Let's go, let's continue." The white-haired old man smiled, pulled the young man, and turned to walk outside. The crowd blocking the door hurriedly retreated to the side. Wait a minute. But at this moment, a voice sounded. "And? Who is it? He actually dares to ask Frenzy to wait a minute?" Everyone was surprised. Although Frenzy had changed his appearance, everyone present could guess his identity. Why did he find us? At the same time, Frenzy frowned and pulled Long Tianyu. "Kid, let's go quickly. Don't let him ruin our mood." But Long Tianyu also heard Qin Feiyang's voice and was a little unhappy with Frenzy's attitude. Why was it that seeing Brother Haoyan was like seeing a god of plague? There's no buts. Hurry up. Frenzy dragged Long Tianyu and rushed outside. Shua. At this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared in the restaurant and said angrily, "Why are you running? I have something to do." So it's Zhang Haoyan. The more I look at this kid, the more I like him. Yeah, if it was someone else, who would care about you? But he gave 10 million soul stones to the family of the four guards. Everyone began to discuss. They looked at Qin Feiyang with friendliness and praise. Frenzy looked at this scene and couldn't help but pout. He turned to Qin Feiyang and frowned. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang looked at the four young men and women lying in a pool of blood, then looked at Frenzy and said, "Follow me back to Nine Heaven Palace immediately." "Are you crazy? Can't tell the situation?" Frenzy raised his eyebrows. The others didn't know what Frenzy was talking about, but Qin Feiyang was well aware. Obviously, Frenzy also realized that something was wrong and didn't want to bring Long Tianyu back. Chapter 21-25. I already have an idea on this matter. Let's go back. Qin Feiyang said as he activated a teleportation altar. Frenzy was taken aback. Really? And Qin Feiyang nodded and stepped onto the altar. Okay, let's go back. Frenzy's eyes flashed as he took a facial restoration pill and jumped onto the altar with Long Tianyu. Everyone, sorry for the disturbance. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled at the people in the restaurant. The three figures quickly disappeared. Nine Heaven Palace. On the stairway to heaven, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy walked side by side in front, while Long Tianyu obediently followed behind. The stairway to heaven rumbled. This was a warning, because Long Tianyu wasn't a disciple of Nine Heaven Palace yet. What is going on? This daddy has never seen Shangguan Fenglan care so much about someone, let alone a child, Frenzy secretly asked. This matter actually doesn't have much to do with Long Tianyu. It's the Grey Castle that attracted Shangguan Fenglan's attention. Qin Feiyang transmitted. What? Frenzy frowned. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation. So that's the case. I didn't expect this demonic creature to have such a deep grudge with Nine Heaven Palace, Frenzy muttered. So as long as Long Tianyu doesn't say anything, Shangguan Fenglan won't do anything to Long Tianyu? Qin Feiyang secretly said. Frenzy nodded. Then we have to tell this kid in advance. And Qin Feiyang responded. The two immediately turned to look at Long Tianyu. Is there something? Seeing Qin Feiyang and Frenzy suddenly turn to look at him, Long Tianyu was a little confused. Do you want to die? Frenzy laughed. Of course not. Long Tianyu shook his head. Frenzy said, All right then, we will bring someone with you later. You have to listen to our arrangements, understand? Understood. Long Tianyu nodded. But in fact, he had no idea what the madman was talking about. As Qin Feiyang and Long Tianyu walked, they secretly instructed Long Tianyu. An hour later, the three of them finally arrived at Lotus Lake. Madman glanced at a pavilion by the lake and stopped in the air. He looked down at Long Tianyu and asked, "Do you remember what we taught you?" "Yes." Long Tianyu nodded. "Let's go then." Madman waved his hand and brought Qin Feiyang and Long Tianyu across the sky, landing on the balcony of the pavilion. Qin Feiyang looked into the room and said respectfully, "Hall Master, this disciple has fulfilled his mission and brought senior brother Feng Zi and Long Tianyu back." "Wait." Shangguan Fenglan's voice came from inside. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked at Madman and smiled bitterly. "Then let's wait." In the room, Shangguan Fenglan took out the image crystal. A short while later, the phantom of the Grand Elder appeared. Shangguan Fenglan said, "Madman and that child have arrived." The corner of the Grand Elder's mouth twitched as he said unhappily, "It seems that Jiang Haoyan's face is big." He called him back as soon as he went. Shangguan Fenglan was taken aback, then covered her mouth and laughed. "You can't be jealous, right? Shouldn't I be? I've been so good to him. When has he ever given me a good face? When I talk to him, he ignores me. When I send him a message, he directly ignores me. You're saying that I, the dignified Grand Elder of Nine Heavens Palace, can't compare to a Jiang Haoyan?" The Grand Elder's face was full of displeasure. Shangguan Fenglan smiled and said, "It's normal for young people to be a little rebellious." "He's still young?" The Grand Elder was speechless. Shangguan Fenglan said, "Although he's not young in your eyes, he's just a child." Sigh. The Grand Elder sighed and said, "Interrogate them. I'll just watch from here and won't go over." "All right." Shangguan Fenglan nodded and put away the image crystal. She said indifferently, "Come in." Qin Feiyang and Long Tianyu quickly walked in with Long Tianyu. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Madman angrily and said, "You're getting more and more powerful now. Even Grand Elder and I can't persuade you." "You flatter me." Madman pinched his nose and looked indifferent. He directly sat down on the chair next to Shangguan Fenglan. Shangguan Fenglan's face darkened and said angrily, "Did I ask you to sit?" Madman was stunned and asked, "I can't sit?" "Yes." Shangguan Fenglan gritted her teeth and glared at him. Madman pursed his lips, got up, and sat on the ground again. He said, "I'll sit on the ground." "Okay?" Shangguan Fenglan was furious. This was simply a scoundrel. Madman said impatiently, "If you have something to say it quickly. Don't dawdle. Okay?" "Shut up." Shangguan Fenglan shouted. Madman shrugged and looked indifferent. However, he didn't dare to say anything. He was still a little afraid of Shangguan Fenglan. Shangguan Fenglan glared at Madman and raised her head to look at Qin Feiyang. She said, "You also retreat to the side." Qin Feiyang was stunned and then obediently retreated to the side. Then, Shangguan Fenglan ignored the two of them and looked at Long Tianyu. Long Tianyu was a little nervous. Because Shangguan Fenglan had been in a high position for a long time, she naturally gave people a strong sense of oppression. And Long Tianyu was only a 3-star combat emperor and a child. How could he not be nervous when facing such a terrifying existence? A moment passed. Shangguan Fenglan nodded and finally said, "Not bad. At such a young age, you're already a 3-star combat emperor. In time, you will definitely surpass Madman and Jiang Haoyan." "Him?" Madman smiled disdainfully. Shangguan Fenglan suddenly stood up and said angrily, "I told you to shut up. You don't remember?" Don't. Continue. I won't say anything anymore." Madman quickly waved his hand. Phew. Shangguan Fenglan glared fiercely at Madman and let out a long breath. She returned to her seat and looked at Long Tianyu. She said, "Answer me, do you have the confidence to surpass them?" "Yes." Long Tianyu nodded seriously. "Very good." Shangguan Fenglan nodded and said, "Then now, can you answer a few of my questions?" "All right." Long Tianyu said. Shangguan Fenglan said, "You can't lie to me. You have to tell me the truth." "Of course." Because grandfather taught me since I was young that children can't lie, Long Tianyu said. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. What a sensible and cute child. Next, Shangguan Fenglan waved her hand. Divine power surged and a shadow slowly condensed. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at the shadow and their pupils suddenly shrank. Because this shadow was the Gray Castle. And the shadow that Shangguan Fenglan condensed was no different from the real Gray Castle. In other words, it was exactly the same. What did this mean? It meant that Shangguan Fenglan did know the Gray Castle, and she was not just familiar with it. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Long Tianyu and said with a smile, "Do you know it?" "Yes. He is the mysterious Grandpa Gray." Long Tianyu nodded. "Grandpa Gray?" Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. "Yes. It helped me, and I am very grateful to it, so I call it Grandpa Gray," Long Tianyu said. "I see." Shangguan Fenglan nodded in realization and said, "Are you very familiar with him?" "Not familiar. I have only seen him once." Long Tianyu shook his head, his small face full of regret. "Only once?" Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. "Yes, it was that time. I fainted in the far west. Grandpa Gray saved me and took care of me for a few days. When I woke up, Grandpa Gray sent me out. Since then, I have never seen Grandpa Gray again." "Beautiful sister, do you know where Grandpa Gray is? Can you tell me? I really want to say thank you to him in person." Long Tianyu looked at Shangguan Fenglan innocently. This, Shangguan Fenglan did not know how to answer for a moment. "You haven't seen it either?" Long Tianyu said with disappointment. "I really haven't seen it. I don't know where it is." "If you know, can you tell me?" Shangguan Fenglan asked with a smile. "I really don't know." Long Tianyu shook his head. Shangguan Fenglan raised her eyebrows and asked, "Then why did it help you?" "I don't know," Long Tianyu said. Shangguan Fenglan said, "It helped you so much. How can you not know?" Long Tianyu lowered his head and said with grievance, "I really don't know. I also want to ask Grandpa Gray." This, Shangguan Fenglan was a little at a loss. She vaguely felt that this matter was not so simple. But thinking back, Long Tianyu was only a 13-year-old child. How could he lie? She pondered for a while. Shangguan Fenglan smiled again and said, "Tianyu, do you want to stay in Jiutian Palace?" "Of course. There are a lot of novel things here. And I heard from Brother Madman that there are a lot of treasures here that can make my cultivation stronger," Long Tianyu said with a face full of yearning. "Then your Brother Madman really didn't lie to you. I can also let you stay in Jiutian Palace, but you have to tell me the truth. Do you know where your Grandpa Gray is now?" Shangguan Fenglan said. "You actually used this kind of temptation to confuse a child. How despicable." Madman's eyes were full of contempt. In fact, he and Qin Feiyong had always been very nervous. Although they had clearly explained to Long Tianyu on the way, Long Tianyu was only a child after all. How could a child fight against Shangguan Fenglan? Let's talk about Long Tianyu. Hearing Shangguan Fenglan's words, he glanced at Qin Feiyong and Madman, then looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, "Beautiful sister, are you doubting me?" Shangguan Fenglan froze, and her expression was a little unnatural. She was actually seen through by a child and questioned in public. It was too embarrassing. "Beautiful sister, I really don't know where Grandpa Gray is. I only remember that when I saw him that time, he was in the far west. Why don't you go to the far west to look for him?" Long Tianyu said. Okay, okay, I believe you." Shangguan Fenglan nodded. "This kid is good." Madman snickered inwardly. Indeed, his mind is very flexible. No wonder Gray Castle likes him so much. Qin Feiyong secretly laughed. Looking at Long Tianyu, who was at ease, the worries in their hearts were finally relieved. Chapter 21-26. After asking for a long time, she still couldn't get an answer. Shangguan Fenglan was very helpless. "Palace Master, if you don't believe us, you should at least believe a child. After all, such a young child can't possibly lie to you, right?" Qin Feiyong said. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and lowered her head in silence. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other and couldn't help but reveal a smile in their eyes. This woman must be very conflicted now. Should they believe Long Tianyu's words? After a long time, Shangguan Fenglan seemed to have made a decision. She looked up at Qin Feiyong and Madman and said, I want to keep Long Tianyu by my side. What? Qin Feiyong and Madman were stunned. Although they had expected that Shangguan Fenglan would make an exception and keep Long Tianyu in Nine Heavens Palace, they didn't expect that she would keep Long Tianyu by her side. The nature of this was completely different. Although Long Tianyu was smart, he was still a child. But Shangguan Fenglan was different. As an old monster who had lived for an unknown number of years, he was shrewd, experienced, and had terrifying means. If Long Tianyu stayed by her side, he would be exposed sooner or later. Why? Do you have any objections? Shangguan Fenglan looked at the two and asked. No, no, no. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand and said, This kid can stay by your side because of his ancestors. How would we dare to have any objections? Yes, yes, yes. We can't be happier for him. Madman also nodded repeatedly. Is that so? But looking at your expressions, why do you seem a little unhappy? Shangguan Fenglan said. No, no. It's just a little too sudden and unexpected. However, for such a big matter, Senior Brother Madman and I don't have the final say. After all, we are not Long Tianyu's guardians. So, we have to ask Long Tianyu's opinion on this matter first. He's a child. We can't force him. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Shangguan Fenglan nodded, looked at Long Tianyu with a gentle smile, and asked, Child, are you willing to stay by my side? I promise that no matter what happens in the future, I will give you the best. No. Long Tianyu shook his head without hesitation. Rejected? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and asked suspiciously, Why? One had to know. With her identity and position in the Nine Heavens Palace, who knew how many people would want to follow her? I'm not familiar with you, Long Tianyu said. This reason made Shangguan Fenglan unable to refute, because it was the truth. Even though she had long known of Long Tianyu's existence, this was the first time they had met, so they weren't familiar with one another. Madman, what do we do? Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. I think it doesn't matter. After all, whether Long Tianyu follows Shangguan Fenglan or stays in Nine Heaven Palace as an ordinary disciple, he is still under Shangguan Fenglan's surveillance. Madman thought. That's true. Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. Then, he said worriedly, but Long Tianyu is still so young. I'm afraid that he won't be able to withstand Shangguan Fenglan's seduction. Speak the truth. For us to be able to help to this extent is already considered extremely benevolent. Besides, it's impossible for us to stay by his side and protect him forever. So in the future, it will depend on his own ability. Madman transmitted his voice. That makes sense. Qin Feiyong muttered. He glanced at Shangguan Fenglan and transmitted his voice to Long Tianyu. You can stay by her side, but you have to remember, no matter what she promises you, you can't reveal anything. You can't reveal any information about your grandpa Hui. Do you understand? Long Tianyu glanced at Qin Feiyong. He was a little hesitant. Follow her, and you will have a good future. You don't need to do anything more. You just need to keep your grandpa Hui's secret. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice again. All right. Long Tianyu secretly responded. He looked up at Shangguan Fenglan and said, Pretty sister, I thought about it and decided to follow you. Why? You didn't agree just now. Shangguan Fenglan was surprised. Because you can protect me, and I can sense my mother's scent on you. Long Tianyu blinked his big eyes and said, Mother's scent? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Although she was in a high position and had great strength, she was still very unfamiliar with the matter of giving birth to children. Suddenly, a child ran to her and said that he had the scent of a mother. If it were any unmarried woman, they would definitely find it difficult to adapt to this situation. Long Tianyu looked at Shangguan Fenglan suspiciously and said, Pretty sister, are you unwilling? I'm willing. I'm willing. Shangguan Fenglan came back to her senses and hurriedly nodded. After chatting for a while, Shangguan Fenglan gave the order to leave. Qin Feiyong and Madman were also very tactful. They secretly exhorted Long Tianyu a few times before turning to leave. They had done everything they could. The rest was left to Long Tianyu to face. There was a saying that flowers in a greenhouse could not withstand the wind and waves. If he wanted to stand out, he had to rely on himself. After Qin Feiyang and Madman left, Shangguan Fenglan looked at Long Tianyu and said with a smile, "Tianyu, I have something to do. You go outside and play first." "Okay." Long Tianyu nodded and turned to run out. He looked here and there, his little face full of curiosity. Shangguan Fenglan stood at the door and watched for a while before returning to the room and taking out the image crystal. Soon, the first elder's image appeared. Shangguan Fenglan asked respectfully, "Did you see anything?" "What about you?" the first elder asked. Shangguan Fenglan pondered for a while and said, "To be honest, it's full of loopholes. This old man thinks so too. Long Tianyu is just a young and ignorant child. However, when faced with your questions, he was able to answer them fluently. Why is that? It must be Jiang Haoyin and Madman who are teaching him. There's something unusual about this." The first elder sighed. "What's going on with these two brats? You and I both know Madman's character. He never puts anyone in his eyes. He doesn't even spare a glance for those heaven-roll disciples. But now, he's actually hanging out with Jiang Haoyin?" Shangguan Fenglan frowned. The first elder thought for a while and said with a smile, "Maybe they hit it off." "Is that so?" Shangguan Fenglan muttered. The first elder suddenly asked, "Do you still remember their sparring on Turtle King Island?" "I remember. Although we didn't see it with our own eyes, I went to ask Feng Zihan later, because at that time, only Feng Zihan had been to Turtle King Island. But Feng Zihan didn't know much." Shangguan Fenglan said. "Then who won and who lost?" the first elder asked. "I'm not sure. I heard from Feng Zihan that from the conversation between Jiang Haoyin and Madman, it seems that the winner is Jiang Haoyin, but Madman didn't admit it. But one thing is undeniable. Madman took special care of Jiang Haoyin after their sparring." Shangguan Fenglan said. "If Jiang Haoyin really won, then we really underestimated his ability. But thinking about it, it's not very likely. After all, you and I both know Madman's methods. Even if he suppressed his cultivation, there's definitely no one in Jotian Palace who can defeat him." Headache. The first elder rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't understand what kind of relationship there was between Madman and Qin Feiyang. When Qin Feiyang returned to the cave abode, the sky had already darkened. He didn't go to the resource hall because he had more important things to do, refining the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. When he left the treasure hall during the day, the reason why he was so happy was because he got the herbs for the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill from Shangguan Qiu. And there was more than one set. After all, he couldn't just take care of himself. There was also Zhao Tailai, White-Eyed Wolf, Mermaid Princess, Tang Hai, and the others. Everyone had to have a share. So during the day, he coaxed Shangguan Qiu in the treasure hall and finally got 20 sets of herbs. Although Shangguan Qiu seemed reluctant, Qin Feiyang could see that 20 sets of herbs wasn't the limit of the treasure hall. They must be holding back. Of course, the treasure hall also had its rules. He couldn't get to the bottom of it. Moreover, he was already very satisfied to get 20 sets of herbs. But these 20 sets of herbs also cost him a lot. After all, it was a dragon soul. And it was a dragon soul above the perfection god of war. After discussing for half a day, the two finally reached a consensus. One set of herbs, 10 million. Not divine crystals, but soul stones. Shangguan Qiu also learned to be smart. No matter what he traded with Qin Feiyang in the future, he would use soul stones to trade. In other words, these 20 sets of herbs cost Qin Feiyang 200 million soul stones. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang took out 2 jade boxes and an iron box and opened them one by one. Inside the 2 jade boxes were the flower of the dragon god and the primordial spirit lotus. The primordial spirit lotus was the size of a baby's fist. It was snow-white and emitted a hazy divine light with a holy aura. Inside the iron box was a golden dragon, but it was very small. It was about the size of an adult's palm. It lay quietly in the iron box, motionless, and no emotional fluctuations could be felt. This was the dragon soul of the golden dragon. However, this dragon soul's consciousness had already been erased. A dragon soul with its consciousness erased was just like a human with its consciousness erased. It had no lethality at all and was just a pure herb. Qin Feiyang wasn't in a hurry to refine the elixir. First, he opened the elixir scripture and carefully read the steps of refining the dragon soul primordial spirit pill. About half an hour passed. Qin Feiyang finally memorized the elixir recipe. For elixirs like the dragon soul primordial spirit pill, he didn't allow any mistakes. Because once he made a mistake, a set of herbs would be wasted. These herbs were all very hard to find, and one wasted set was one less set. Closing his eyes and calming his mind for a moment, when his heart was as calm as water, Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. He revived the nether devil flame and opened the furnace to refine the elixir. Every step was extremely careful. His spiritual force was also highly concentrated. In less than 10 breaths, his forehead was covered with bean-sized beads of sweat. Fire Lotus, White-Eyed Wolf, Mermaid Princess, and the others also woke up from their seclusion. But from beginning to end, no one made the slightest movement. They silently got up and then quietly looked at Qin Feiyang. Their hearts were filled with anticipation. Chapter 21-27. Time passed quietly. About an hour later, suddenly, a bright golden light bloomed from the Qing Yuan cauldron. Following that, pieces of pill qi rose up like auspicious light from the heavens, filled with a sacred aura. There was also a strong pill fragrance. Success. Zhao Tailai and the others stared at the Qing Yuan cauldron excitedly. Whoosh! With a piercing sound, a pill flew out of the cauldron and floated above it. It was a dazzling golden pill. 9 pill patterns, bright and dazzling. And it also had a strong divine dragon aura. Qin Feiyang looked at the pill, wiped the sweat on his forehead, and then smiled happily. Whether it was the 4 symbols infinite divine pill or the dragon soul primordial spirit pill, he was very happy that he could successfully refine them on his first try. Of course, this was also due to the alchemy scripture. Without the alchemy scripture, no matter how high one's attainments were, there was a possibility of failure. Not bad. This is the dragon soul primordial spirit pill. A gray figure appeared, looking at the pill and said, "It was the artifact spirit." Qin Feiyang was stunned, turned to look at the artifact spirit, and said, "You know about the dragon soul primordial spirit pill?" "Yes. I've seen it with your ancestor." The artifact spirit nodded. Qin Feiyang nodded, but his expression suddenly froze, and he frowned. "Wait. So my ancestor opened the door of potential because he took these pills?" He originally thought that his ancestor relied on his own ability to open the door of potential, but now, he suddenly thought that since his ancestor also had these pill formulas, he should have also taken the pills to open the door of potential. Wrong. Before the artifact spirit answered, Tantai Li spoke first. Wrong? Qin Feiyang was stunned, scratching his head, and looked at Tantai Li in confusion. Tantai Li said, "When your ancestor opened the door of potential, he never took any pills." No? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Yes. I don't know what happened after he entered the ancient world, but before he entered the ancient world, he never took any pills like the potential pill, Tantai Li said. Impressive. Qin Feiyang was amazed. It turned out that he really relied on his own ability to unlock the door of potential. How outstanding was this talent? He had seen many monstrous geniuses. However, as far as he knew, Zhuge Mingyang was the only person who had unlocked the door of potential on his own. However, he had only opened the second level. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He shook his head and said, "The ancestor relied on his own ability to open so many doors of potential, while I can't even open the first one. The gap between me and the ancestor is really big." Don't say that. It's because you had the potential pill from the very beginning. If you don't, you will definitely try to find an opportunity to unlock the door of potential. Who knows, he might succeed. Tantai Li consoled her. Maybe. Qin Feiyang shook his head and grabbed the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit pellet. He looked at the artifact spirit and said, "Let me borrow your aura." After saying that, he sat cross-legged on the ground and consumed the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. The artifact spirit released its aura. One must know that the artifact spirit was a heaven-defying artifact. How terrifying was its aura! Qin Feiyong was shrouded by the aura. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on his body, making it difficult for him to breathe. Moreover, he had to endure the pain of the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill's energy on his body. This was even more painful than when he took the Great Creation Pill. He felt that his body was about to be torn apart. And his body was indeed about to be torn apart. His skin broke apart inch by inch, and blood flowed out. If he took off his clothes now, he would be shocked to see that his entire body was covered with cracks, like a spider web. Boom! A moment passed. A muffled sound suddenly exploded in his body. Following closely, under the clothes on his chest, a dazzling blood light burst out. That blood light, even the blood-stained clothes, could not hide it. It was also at this moment. The pain on Qin Feiyong's face dissipated and was replaced by joy. He said, "You can withdraw your aura." The artifact spirit withdrew its aura. Qin Feiyong immediately tore open his clothes and saw that the potential imprint had shockingly turned into a blood-red color. The mermaid princess and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. The scene from before was too terrifying. They were afraid that Qin Feiyong's body would be torn apart by the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. Wait, Zhao Tailai seemed to have thought of something. Looking at the mermaid princess and the others, he said in surprise, "Young master's body has been tempered by the heavenly tribulation, and even it can't withstand it." Then wouldn't we, hearing this? Everyone looked at each other. That's right. After being tempered by the heavenly tribulation, they were about to explode. Then wouldn't their untempered bodies be even more dangerous? It seems that we have to go all out to open this door of potential. Tang Hai sighed. Everyone nodded. Not to mention anything else, before opening the door of potential, they had to at least prepare some life-saving things. For example, the Life Divine Pill. While opening the door of potential, they were also recovering from their injuries. Qin Feiyong stood up, glanced at everyone, and said helplessly, "You haven't broken through to the perfect war god yet. Is there a need to think so much? Hurry up and cultivate." After saying that, he took the artifact spirit and entered the Black Tortoise realm. Then, he found a pool and swallowed a divine life pill. While healing his injuries, he washed the bloodstains on his body. Qin Feiyong suddenly seemed to think of something. He turned his head to look at the artifact spirit standing by the pool and asked, "I remember you said that you saw my ancestors more than 2,000 years ago. When you saw them, what was their cultivation level?" "Very strong." The artifact spirit only said these two words. Very strong? How strong were they? Qin Feiyong was curious. The artifact spirit thought for a moment and said, "Stronger than the current Shangguan Fenglan." Damn, amazing. Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. Back then, they were stronger than the current Shangguan Fenglan. Now that thousands of years had passed, wouldn't the cultivation level of the two ancestors have far surpassed Shangguan Fenglan? After Qin Feiyong came back to his senses, he smiled and said, "It seems that this matter can't be told to Madman." "Why?" The artifact spirit was suspicious. "Madman and my ancestors are from the same period. Maybe at that time, my ancestor's cultivation level was lower than his, and now Shangguan Fenglan is stronger than him. Think about it, with Madman's personality, wouldn't he go crazy after learning this news?" Qin Feiyong said. "That makes sense." The artifact spirit nodded and smiled. "However, Madman is to blame for this. For 7,000 or 8,000 years, he has been wasting time. Otherwise, he would be more than a half-step god now." Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, "Indeed, although I don't understand Madman, his talent is not inferior to yours, and he also has a spatial divine object with a time array. If he is willing to cultivate seriously, his achievements will be unimaginable, but I am a little puzzled. Why did he waste all these years? Is there a special reason for this?" The artifact spirit said. "Who knows?" Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. During the conversation, Qin Feiyong's injuries had all been healed. After all, The effect of the divine life pill was far from comparable to the healing pill. Moreover, his bloodline power had the ability to repair itself. Then he jumped out of the pool, changed into clean clothes, and left the Black Tortoise realm. Sitting on a chair in the cave residence's living room, he lowered his head and pondered. As for the artifact spirit, it returned to his chi-si. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked up at the stone door. With a wave of his hand, the stone door slowly opened and 4 young men stood outside. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "It's you, come in." It was the 4 people who went to the resource hall in the morning to sell the dragon god flower. "Greetings, senior brother Jiang." The 4 entered the cave residence and cupped their hands. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile, "I don't dare to accept this title, because in terms of experience and strength, you are the senior brothers." No, no, no. Experience and strength are useless. It depends on one's ability and status. Senior brother Jiang's status and ability in the 9th Heaven Palace has obviously surpassed us, so we should call you senior brother. The 4 smiled flatteringly. Qin Feiyang smiled. Without any more pleasantries, he took out 400,000 soul stones from his universe ring and piled them on the ground like a small mountain. The 4's eyes immediately lit up. However, they didn't take out the dragon god flower. Qin Feiyang looked at the 4 suspiciously and said with a smile, "I'm a man of my word. Give me the dragon god flower and these 400,000 soul stones are yours." Hearing this, the 4 looked at each other. One of them smiled and said, "Senior brother Jiang, we have brought the dragon god flower, but we have a small request." "Request?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned. "The 4 of you, when we were in the resource hall this morning, we didn't mention any additional requests." That person said, "This is something we thought of at the last minute." "Then let's hear it." Qin Feiyang said. Although he already had 20 sets of medicinal herbs now, the more medicinal herbs for this kind of pill, the better. As long as the request of the 4 wasn't too excessive, he would consider it. "We want to raise the price. The 4 of us, 1 million soul stones each." That person smiled. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. This request was actually to raise the price? And it was increased by 10 times at once? Originally, it was 400,000. But now, 1 million soul stones each was 4 million. What a big appetite. "The 4 of you, when doing business, you have to keep your word. How can you raise the price at the last minute?" Qin Feiyang said. "We also know that a last-minute request is a bit excessive. But a mere 4 million soul stones is nothing to senior brother Jiang, right? You have to know that this morning, senior brother Jiang, you gave someone 40 million soul stones at the North City Gate. You are so generous even to outsiders. Do you have to be so stingy with us, your fellow disciples?" "Right." The 4 of them laughed. "This is not a matter of generosity or stinginess. It's a matter of credibility. I, Jiang Haoyan, have always been a man of my word, and I am also very disgusted by the other party going back on their word. Since the 4 of you are not happy, then please go back," Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. The 4 of them froze. Originally, they thought that Qin Feiyang was very easy to talk to, but they didn't expect that he would directly turn hostile and ask them to leave. However, the 4 of them quickly calmed down and had no intention of leaving. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.